On this episode of the Global Fire Creative Podcast, we're really excited to be joined by a guest who has left his mark on stage, in film, and on TV. Trained at Manchester Metropolitan Drama School and at the Miskin Theatre, he's gone to perform in critically acclaimed plays like The Greater Game, TV shows like Trigger Point, movies such as Warblade, and has won various awards, including Best Actor for the short film Bruised. We've had the joy of working with this actor many times over the years, most notably on an ongoing Vodafone security series where he stars as Dave the Hacker. He always brings unique charm and intensity to the role, and for us, behind the camera, a lot of fun. He's been quoted as saying, "Acting isn't my job. It's who I am and how I express myself in every way." It's our absolute pleasure to welcome to the podcast, actor Paul Marlon.
Yes.
That's a great intro. Good work. Good work. That's like one of those moments where you go, when did I say that?
Yeah.
Well, when he's been quoted? When did I say that and to whom? Where did you get that from?
We'll get into all of that.
Okay, fine. Okay, fine.
Before we do, I just wanted to start with a question to kick us off.
Cool.
So I'm joined obviously by Will and Ross and Paul. Thank you for being here.
No worries.
And just want to ask, you've said, acting isn't your job. It's who you are. When did you know that you first wanted to be an actor?
You know, the truth is, it's like I'm sort of almost reverse engineering my thoughts, because I always said that, and when I've been asked that before, I've said I wasn't one of those kids that just wanted to act. I didn't have like a stage school. I didn't do any drama classes, or, I did all the other things that kids do. I was a scout and a carpenter, a street urchin. Do you know what I mean? I did all of that stuff, And so, and really and truthfully, there was no drama at my secondary school. So I did no performing whatsoever, apart from I remember being in two sort of primary school shows, and I went to school with a guy called Ben Simmons. Hi, Ben, if you're listening. And I'm still friends with him now. And his dad, his uncle were the Simmons brothers. And they were like a local act in the days of like holiday camps, where the Simmons brothers were doing all the camps and the coasts and stuff during the year. Yes. And they'd do a panto. They'd be like, right. And the comedy role is the Simmons brothers. And so I remember Ben getting the lead role. And I remember even then, at primary school, I didn't know what the word nepotism was, but I remember thinking, this is something to do with them. This is something to do with those guys, right? And I was his understudy. But what that meant, you're talking about a primary school performance here, and I'll never forget, it was called Put These Lights Out, or Put the Lights Out. It was like World War II. And my role was to play I can't remember it's not RAC. What's the officers that used to go around and there's like an acronym, it's like letters. But anyway.
PCSO?
It's that, but basically during the Second World War, there'd be someone going with a tin hat on, going, wait, put those lights out. Because it's like during the Blitz.
I'm pretty sure it wasn't the RAC.
No, I'm sure it wasn't them. They moved into sort of automobiles afterwards. It was, what is that? Anyway, we'll think of it. But have it come up on the summit, put that on the screen, someone. Yeah. But basically, I had to come on at the beginning, say this one line, put those lights out. And that was the opening of the play. But then I had to go to the back of the hall and work that panel of lights that old school halls used to have. Like there's just loads of, and all it is loads of strip lights. Yeah. But given one given point, there was so one on and off.
Switches.
Yeah, it was all of those. Yeah. And that was it, apart from this main role that this Ben had. And again, I can't remember the rest of the play, even though I probably went, well, I'm not in it, so I'll just be at the back ignoring them. But I remember thinking back on that, and I'd never thought of it since then. So there was that. Secondary school, absolutely no drama whatsoever, nothing at all. I suppose performing, I was doing a little bit of stuff like campfire comedy with scouts and things like that. And I suppose I knew I was someone who liked to hold an audience, whether it's in a conversation or with your friends or doing jokes and silliness. And again, most of my school life was
like class clown.
Totally class clown.
Right.
And I was that, and I'm quite proud to say that I might be wrong here, but the way I sort of remember it and gauge it is I was the kid who was the class clown who sort of annoyed the teachers, but I was never out of order. I've seen some things. I went to a boys' school that was terrible, and kids kicking, tables at teachers. I was never that. And And I remember sort of teachers laughing at me, but also sending me out, you know. And I thought, if I can hit that, then that was fine. You know?
You're annoying and charming in equal measure.
Hopefully.
Like a lovable rogue.
I'd like to think so, Will. I mean, all this somewhere someone's going, no, we couldn't stand him, couldn't wait to get him out of the room.
Yeah.
You know, like I remember we had like outside buildings in our school because it was so old and decrepit you couldn't go into somewhere. So they'd put like almost like caravans up where you were teaching.
Yeah.
And there was a teacher called Mrs. Malanga, her name was. She was a maths teacher. And she sent me out of the room for saying stuff or what, I can't remember what I was doing. I got sent out of the room and I was outside. I mean, stuff that wouldn't go on now probably, you know, that I'd probably be able to put a claim in against her or something, right? But I'm outside in the freezing cold. And at the back of the class were coats. So every time she wrote on the board, I leant in and I grabbed a coat. And of course, I thought this would be love. And I had everyone's coats on. And I mean, literally like the Stay Puft Man, like that. And I sort of hid it out the way and I knocked on the door and opened it so she couldn't see me. And I went, Miss, can I come back in now? And she said, yeah. And of course I wandered in out like this. And everyone was laughing. And I remember her laughing, you know, and she was like, you know. So I did stuff like that. But I didn't, again, there was no thought for a second that that was going to be my job or, you know, I could do that for a living. And then I remember again, I went to, when I went to college, I went to a different place. I went from an all-boys school, sort of high school in, you know, the suburbs of Dartford. And then suddenly we went to this sort of Lee Academy. And it's really massive now. It's this huge thing where it majored in education and stuff. It was a pretty sort of forward place then. And of course, again, the biggest sort of thing for me, it was like you were 16 when you changed into sort of big sort of collegey school, aren't you? You know, doing GMVQ science or something I was doing. And suddenly it was mixed. And you were like, there's girls. You know what I mean? So it's like, I better ramp this comedy thing up. This might get me, you know, some action or something, you know. Yeah. And so there was all of that. And I remember I did that. One of the first things we did as a sort of team building thing was you're supposed to do presentations and, you know, problem solving and everyone's working together. And no one wanted to do the presentation, but I was like, yeah, I'll do it. You know, I'll have a go at that. And at the end of the couple of days of this thing, they were giving awards out for how everyone's teams were doing. And it was just team building, just teenagers getting to know each other to become a sixth form. And I got this special award, and there was it was a bar of chocolate. But the point was, they called me up and said, you know, he's really entertained us today. He's really kept the fun up and the energy. And it was the first time that all that stuff I'd been kicked out of the class for got rewarded. And
celebrated.
I genuinely remember walking home. And like I said at the beginning, this very long answer to your question is reverse engineered in my brain because I never thought of any of this at the time. I've sort of, in retrospect is the right word, I've thought about it afterwards. Because I can remember walking home that day with this bar of chocolate, just like beaming. Like I could feel warmth in my heart. And I was like, it was really a special moment. And I think back to that sometimes and go, I wonder, was that the moment I thought I'm going to have to do something like this? You know? And I did a bit of stand-up at college. I did it for a charity thing. Some kids danced, someone did that. I wrote some stand-up and I didn't even have it sort of memorised. I remember having the notes on a chair, you know, and it was terrible, I'm sure. But, you know, but it was me and a microphone and an audience. Yeah. And then when I was done at that college, that's when I went off on the holiday camps. And again, I made a living for 3 or 4 years doing silliness on stage, you know, comparing and skits and a little bit singing and stuff, but that wasn't really my thing. And so that was my way into sort of stage, you know, and though I didn't play any roles, I certainly didn't really understand acting, didn't even really understand sort of what I was doing in some regards. It was just holiday camp sort of fun and silliness. But of course, then you realise you cut to being, I think I was maybe 21 when I finished the camps. And I'd spent quite a few years. The thing about holiday camps is you're on stage every night with a new audience. So suddenly you realise you've done your apprenticeship. You've got a load of sort of craft and skills that you thought was just mucking about. Yeah. And that's when then I decided to. I knew I didn't want to do the camps forever, and I don't know why, but I remember saying, I think I want to be an actor. I think I kind of want to do what I'm doing there, but sort of seriously. Yeah. And then of course I realised, like we've all talked about before, I grew up with all the 80s films and I grew up with, you know, a dad saying, oh, you've got to watch The Good, the Bad and the Ugly. And you know, suddenly you realise these influences in your life and you go, maybe I was a kid that was watching cinema all my whole life and studying it. And actually I spent a whole summer watching, and then you suddenly, I made a film with a guy with a video camera once in a scout hall, me and my mate. And you go, maybe I was kind of doing this stuff, you know? And then, that was when I decided to join the Miskin. And I was the oldest kid by far. I was like 21, maybe 22, something like that. Most of them were 16, 17, some were 19 maybe. And I did 2 years there and trained as an actor. And that's when that was my sort of my base level before I went off to drama school, where I sort of started to realise what acting was. And then those 5 years were incredibly fun and incredibly amazing and sort of life building and personal building. But equally, that was where I realised, this is for me. And I became very serious about it. And I was always quite serious about it. Even when I was on the camps, I was thinking, even if it was a silly joke, I'd be rehearsing it and making sure that we get this right tonight. And I'd be like saying to the other guys and say, that the timing wasn't right tonight. We need to do that a little bit. Whereas everyone's just going, what's he talking about? He's just mucking about, you know. Yeah. So I suppose, again, a very long answer. It was a combination of stuff that I sort of didn't realise until I realised, and then the rest is history, as they say, and I sort of haven't. And now, of course, I'm back at that place training. Sure. I train young people at that very place. And the biggest thing for me... Amazing. Yeah, and it is really amazing, because the biggest thing for me is I know without that place, I wouldn't have found my tribe. I wouldn't have found my place. Yeah. Because if acting owes me anything, if I can be grateful for anything, regardless of the amazing experiences, it gave me something to hang my clothes on. Mm-hmm. Do you know, it gave me a structure to my life that I still have now. And even though that structure is the crumbliest, ridiculous structure, without that, I'm not sure what I would have done. I'm not sure what my hook was, whether it's music or whether it's beer or whether, you know what I mean, whatever it is that gives you that hook. And that's the thing that I'm really grateful of when I'm teaching young people at the Miskin, because I want them, if they found their place, I want to be a part of that. I want to make sure that I can make that opportunity as big for them as possible, because I know it can literally lead on to them having that in their lives for the rest of it,
Yeah, I think that's good. I think I've got two young boys myself, and I think regardless of how successful they are in life, or how do you even quantify success, I think probably one of the most powerful things that can happen in life is what you said. You find your tribe, your people. Where it's some people love their job and it's their identity. Some people do something a bit more mundane, but they play in like a five-a-side football team or sailing, or they're like a scout leader or something. Yeah. Like finding your thing is, I find, is the thing that will probably get you through life, like with joy and happiness and belonging. Yeah,
but that thing it gives you, I think the thing it gives you is purpose. And I think in life, purpose sounds like a tiny thing, but it's like massive.
It's massive. Yeah, it helps you to move from just like thinking about you and yourself and being introspective, and start to look like outside of yourself.
Yeah, that's a nice way of putting it.
Like give yourself to something bigger than just you.
Yeah,
I think that's what a lot of people mean when they say like purpose. It's kind of it's a like positive kind of growth. Stage.
Yeah, because I wonder. I mean, again, I'm sort of speculating here and going off on tangents, but when I think of like teenagers, and we know we live in a time where mental health and problems and struggles and anxieties are bigger than we've ever been, and we're all sort of roughly the same age. We grew up at a slightly different time, and I mean, obviously, I teach lots of teenagers, so I spend a lot of time with teenagers, and I see these struggles. But when I think of those years when you're a teenager, they are the wilderness years, because you don't know your purpose yet.
Totally, you
don't know what structure is. You don't know what you want to get into, and that's great. It's kind of good.
It's necessary.
Yeah, it's necessary to have all of that. But I wonder, if you then don't formulate that purpose, that drive, that thing, that tribe, whatever it is you get into, if you don't end up having that later in life, I think you're right, Will. I think that's what maybe then perpetuates your too much introspective thinking, too much looking at yourself rather than focusing on that thing that's in the distance.
Or even at that point, the teenage years, the like youth subcultures. Whether it's you find your thing, or you find at school, like when we were at school, you had, at least where I grew up, you had like townies, goths, skater kids, jocks, and I think the grunges, and you might never, you might be a goth for 5 years and then never think about that again. But that gives you that perspective at that time. It gives you your tribe, it gives you your people, gives you your identity. And I think at teenage years, beyond, that's what people are striving to find. Like, who am I? What's my place in the world? Where do I fit? Who are my people? And if we haven't got that, perhaps that's what leads to some of the issues that the young people are facing, because they haven't, you mentioned tribe, and you said acting is who I am. So therefore you belong to that tribe. Like, it's not a job, it's just who I am.
It's interesting, because even when you were talking then, Sam, I was thinking, like, that kind of thing we're talking about, and I know we're not trying to solve the world here, but that is kind of like a blueprint for like other problems as well, isn't it? Because, so when I think of, when I think of acting, like, if I take acting's in a bigger pot for me. I think the pot is creative people. Like, here, we all have this relationship and have had through the work we've done creatively together, no matter what we did in that moment. So that's the tribe, that's the collective, right? And what's lovely about that is the focus isn't on our individualities, isn't our colour, our race, our age, our what we like, music, you know what I mean? Our backgrounds, our class. It's about something else that we all share. Yeah. And that's kind of like, that means that all that other rubbish that gets involved doesn't even get questioned. And that's kind of like, I know I'm thinking like utopia here, something like, solving all the world's problems. But I wonder, and I think maybe that's why the creative environment, and I'm sure, again, other environments are the same, but I'm only going off what I know. I'm sure that's why I always feel like creative environment is a very friendly environment. It's a very open, it's a very, I mean, there is contradictions because, the industry can be very, you don't look like that, we don't want you. But there is something also about that creative collective, and that's what I've always enjoyed. Again, it's a prime example of us sitting around this table now. If I meet people when we're doing creative stuff and they just have the same mindset, I always think, this is a bit of me. I'm going to get on with these people
great
forever.
Energy.
Yeah, great energy. Exactly.
Great energy. Yeah. We tend to have these conversations in different sort of forms on set with different actors we work with, and it's a kind of I think we're just very lucky, with a lot of people we work with, yourself included, that has that kind of mentality, and that is so that you're speaking to something that's quite common through our industry, and we're seeing the same thing in it.
But we also seek that out though.
That's what I was going to say. I wonder if that energy, it's interesting you say, because I find that I work with another company called the Actors Shop, and I've in very much like you guys, and I've always made comparisons with both of you actually. Although they're a much more sort of training background, we go in schools and do teaching everything from young kids in sexual health all the way up to, like, we've worked for HSBC doing stuff for staff, really corporate in the middle of literally in the HSBC building next to Canary Wharf, so as corporate as you can imagine. Yeah. But that company, like you guys, I never go and work for them and meet. I mean, we're all like a family. We've got a WhatsApp group, so that's it. That's it forever, right? Once you get a WhatsApp group, that's it. And there's loads of actors, loads and loads of creative people again, whether they're acting or they're behind the scenes or whatever they're doing for that company. But they're just all the same people, and we all we are like a little family. Yeah. And I think it is like you said, Sam. There is, of course, you're going to get people you go, they're not for us. It's fine. We got through it. Blah blah. But I think you put that energy out and you seek it, like you say, and also you experience it and solidify it in the work. So therefore, you have those experiences, and you go, well, that person would be great to bring back. We'll do that again with that person, or why don't we do what we did last time? Because that was brilliant. So sure. It's perpetuating, isn't it? And again, I think you're right, Will. We're very lucky because it's very healthy. Yeah. Like for you as a human. Do you know what I mean? It's very...
Yeah. No,
it's hard enough at times as it is, isn't it? You want to work with people you enjoy working with.
It's a great relief when you've done hours, sometimes days, weeks of pre-production on a job where there's a lot of pressure. We've got to deliver something at a certain time. It's all got to get done on a timeline. There's money at stake, budgets. It's such a great payoff when it all kind of comes together but like the real pressure is on production day, because you can't just have another production day when there's only budget for one. Sure. It, like, doubles your cost.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
It's such a great payoff when everyone arrives. You've done as much prep as you can in terms of like the casting process. You've kind of essentially interviewed a bunch of people. And they all come together, and it's just this incredible, great positive experience where everyone's like, everyone here's great.
Yeah, but
It's
again,
good.
you guys kind of really make that, in fairness.
Maybe we sense it during that casting process.
You do something because
Right.
you set it up that way. And again, I'm talking from like outside of the ring for a minute. You know what I mean? Even though I always feel very comfortable when I see you guys and when we're working and just being here today, it's like, just feels right. And I can remember walking in here for the first time, which was probably, it's got to be over 10 years. It's got to be something like that when we first worked together. So, and equally like, over that time, there's been new people come and go, and I'm like, oh, hello, and blah blah. But there's something to be said. You guys and that other company's talking about the way you set that up, because at the end of the day, like you guys as a company, I love the fact that you have the word creative in your name, because that is what you guys do. There is a real creative feel.
Yeah.
But you're right. You have to worry. You're essentially a company as well, and you've got deadlines and budgets and money, and you've got to make profits so you can carry on going again, and everyone can get paid and pay their bills, and also serve a purpose and a client. But you can do that stuff, and I've done lots of that stuff where that's the focus, and that you can feel that focus.
It's
And
the highest priority.
Yes.
It's not that kind of balance of.
And that's what you guys do really well.
That's just a part of it in the mix.
Yeah. When we have those production days, it's the same as you would be doing, I don't know, some art house, theatre piece that no one's getting paid for. But it feels like that because everyone's doing the same thing. Everyone's there for the same reason, which is, it's almost like the process is more important than the product. And even though it's not, because at the end of the day, you guys have to deliver a product.
Yep.
But if it feels like that, I think you're on to a real winner.
Part of the other mix is that whilst, we are quite lucky, we get to work with the right sort of clients that facilitate that. That's seems to be just a general, maybe we seek it out as well. We seek out the right clients. We just attract them. But talk about people like Vodafone, Amazon, BP. They're all really, really great companies in their own right. But when we get together on a project, it feels like that.
But that's great, isn't it? Just those three you mentioned there. People listening in thinking like they are massive corporations that have got darker sides maybe in the press and people talk about. But again, what the other elements you deal with, the sort of more personal side and creative side of that is not that, because actually you see something very different. Yeah, they are big corporations, and however they've sought you out, and it's like that cosmos of things coming together for a reason. They want to make things in the same way that you're making it. You know what I mean? They do want to be creative, and they do want to be like, and again, the tiny amounts that I've been involved with the various clients that you guys have had over the years, it always feels like actually the end product is about care. Never feels like, again, I'm sure there are times where you do stuff that's about obviously making profit, and it feels like you're saying a dirty word when you say that, but it's not. But it always feels like there's more to it. You're trying to change, I don't know, environment in the work environment, and for the better, for the general people walking in the door, or again looking after staff and things like that. And I think those things you feel like, oh, well, that's nice. I'm doing something good as well as being creative and getting paid. Like the win-win-win. That's a great feeling.
But the projects we've worked with you mostly on are a perfect example of that. So it's with Vodafone, it's with their security team, and all of those different creative projects are all about trying to help keep everyone who works there safe and obviously support the business functions so that they don't get infiltrated by bad actors.
But doing it in a fun and creative way as well.
Bad actors. They use that in a different term. Obviously.
It's perfect, Will.
Cross language, right?
Absolutely perfect.
Cool. So see you later, Paul.
Yeah, thanks everyone. It's again, when I've worked with that other company, we did work for HSBC, and that feels as corporate and as sort of, oh God, you're not sure about it. But actually what we were doing was a thing that was about their staff learning how to deal with awkward situations. So for example, someone comes in and says, look, my dad's died. I need to close the account. And it was about, this was a rollout and an investment of money, a lot of money, because this rolled out over a number of years. And we went to every bank, almost felt like in the country. We went everywhere and worked with so many people. But it was frontline staff giving them extra training and help to say to that person, come out the back, come and sit and have a coffee. Before we get into all the nitty, rather than standing at, imagine that, you stand at a glass thingy saying, my dad's just died, what do I, and you got to, go through the ticking boxes. And, there is a bit of that. And this was their way of saying, no, Let's treat the customer. It was called something like customer one or one customer. It was all about putting the customer first. So, and it was training them to say, no, come round the back. Let's have a coffee. How are you? Are you all right? Look, I can do those forms for you. Don't worry about that stuff now. We can. And it was great, and again, from an actor point of view, it's that cross between corporate and creativity, because we were playing those people. So we would be in a room in a simulation.
Right.
And again, they use really good actors. I never go on that job and go, it always feels like a brilliant theatre piece, because you're going, they're a great actors. You have to bring your A game, so you're prepped and you're ready.
Yeah.
And it's some of the best work you've ever done, and it's crazy because no one's ever seen it. It's Tuesday morning, it's 11 o'clock, it's in a building somewhere in the middle of Leicester, and it's as corporate as you can imagine. And you are in bits, for real, simulating this situation. And there's a real person who knows it's a simulation, but it's completely, they're not actors, but they are doing the best. It's no acting. They are doing all the best reacting for real. We've had them, they're in bits because they're like, and it sounds a bit sick and a bit wrong, but of course it gives them this incredible experience. And the best thing about that, I remember years later, I walked into a HSBC and I was with them at the time actually as a bank. And I did some transaction in the days you used to go to the bank. Like, when did we do that? I don't know where the banks are anymore. And the lady behind us, she went, I remember you. And I said, yeah. I said, we did a thing together. She said, you played a son and we did this. And she'd obviously been on this rollout. And she said, you know what? We still use all of that stuff today. She said, it was one of the best things we've ever done. And I was like, again, that was me with my chocolate bar skipping down the road. I was like, what a lovely feeling, a lovely thing to be a part of. And you guys are the same. It's that feeling of, that really is that, and again, when I teach young actors, I suppose we don't even touch on this because they're all thinking about they're going to be in the next Avengers and stuff. And that's great to think that, and that's their trajectory and great and good on them. And I never discourage them that. Yeah. But there's a whole other world to acting, whole other world to being creative that can be just as rewarding and just as amazing and just as exploratory, because you're doing something like that. I mean, that's like front end, absolute raw acting to do that and get a reaction from someone. I'm like, I've seen, I've been to the RSC and seen worse stuff. Do you know what I mean?
That kind of leads me to the main question I had for you today really was, what is it like? We've got a slightly more privileged perspective, being the guys behind the camera. We're kind of in that environment. But if you were doing like a careers fair or meeting someone in a pub and they said, explain to me what it's like being an actor, the highs, the lows, the best bits, the worst bits, are there any worse bits? How would you describe that? And where I'm going with that is that as non-acting people, we have perceptions that are probably from movies, like people being actors in movies, running to casting calls, and like people like Joey from Friends getting headshots and trying to get the next job. But these are the things that we think of when we think of acting. I loved the series Extras, Ricky Gervais, and actually that's what having worked with lots of actors who, like you say, are gunning for, they want to be the next Iron Man or the next Tom Cruise or whatever. People act at all sorts of levels. And so I can't even tell you how many times we've used an actor for something fairly low-key and small. And then I'm sat with my boys and I'm like, I've worked with them on some like Game of Thrones, DC movies, Marvel movies, Netflix specials. I'm like, I used them on a like health and safety training video. And now they're doing, but then I might see them again on like a TV ad. And so we were on the shoot once, quite a few years ago, and it was it was a group of actors doing something similar to what your HSBC, like role playing different scenarios. It was more to like equality in the workplace. And Craig, my business partner, who's not here today, we were in the hotel the night before watching Extras, and there was a scene where the actors and the extras were, or whatever they like to be called, supporting artists.
Essays,
They were sat down on the extras, and they were all like what's the word? Like sharing war stories. Like, oh, have you been on the bill? And the guy's like, no. And he's like, you haven't been on the bill. Everyone's been on the bill. You know, all that kind of stuff. And then the next day we were setting up cameras and there was this group of actors and they had the same conversation word for word. Have you been on EastEnders? Have you been on the bill? Oh, you haven't been on EastEnders. Everyone's been on.
You know the collective for a group of actors, right? A complaint. There's a complaint of actors. Yeah, that is definitely the collective.
So well, there you go. So that was like, I was like, did Ricky Gervais nail it on?
Yeah.
Did he nail it? Or, you know, so yeah, I mean,
I've heard similar conversations.
Yeah. So I'd love you to like, you know, to somebody who knows nothing, how would you describe?
Well, the starting point is that all of those stories do come from something. I mean, they're those, you know, even the Joey stuff and you know, the extras really well observed, you know. And again, I haven't really done the kind of SA world, you know, and it's not because I wouldn't. I love being on set. You know, I'd happily, you know, often even, especially the bigger jobs you get, you know, they'll Mr. Marlon, you know, come in your trailer and all that. It's lovely, but you won't catch me in there. I'll be on set watching what's going on because I love, because I come from a very raw kind of background. You know, I didn't do drama school and get a massive agent and then got into it. You know, I was scrabbling around and then and started writing and working with people and started filmmaking and all of that. And so, you know, I've genuinely, it's like that intro talking about, you know, what we said about being an actor. I'm just that type. That's just me. So that's all of that stuff's in me. So all those stories are really well observed and absolutely true, even though they're probably exaggerated.
100%.
And there's loads of experiences. And what's interesting, like anything, like musicians or anybody, or people who work for, I don't know, for a garage, everybody's trajectory it can be. There's similarities and comparisons, but there's also huge differences. You know, just a friend of mine who I work with quite a lot, his trajectory was come out of drama school, get an absolute top agent and start working. And, you know, that was good for a few years. The downside is that then that shifts and the top agent then drops you and you go, and then you're in a world, especially like now, where you go, oh, I'm not sure what to do. So in some ways, I sort of have an advantage being I've done the other end of it and I've been on both sides of that. I think the thing about what's it like, the highs and lows, the words extreme definitely come to mind and the word success comes to mind. And what I mean by those two things, to pick them apart, is we talked about it, I think, just before we came on to sort of record, but we were talking about the word success and you were talking about your children and you just said, Ross, about whatever success means. Well, from an outsider's point of view, we all know the question everyone asks an actor when you say, oh, you're an actor. Maybe you guys not because you work with them. But from an outside point of view, oh, what you been in?
Yeah.
What will I see you in? What
question.
can I see
Or
you in?
who's the most famous person
There we
you've
go.
met. Yeah.
And that's
every time.
how they equate the success of an actor. How well known are you? How big is your car? And I suppose that's the same for every business. That doesn't matter what, you know, that's the sort of monetary.
How big's your house?
Yeah, exactly. The money
Where'd you
side of
live?
it. All of that, right? So there's that, but that's the same across the board. But then there's this level of fame that's like part of how successful you are, or so we believe. But the thing about the success is that is true to some regards, because your byproduct of how successful you are as an actor is that you're going to be seen for more things and seen in more things, and that's just the pure byproduct. You know, I certainly don't teach young actors. I'd say to them, if you want to be famous, then get a YouTube channel, or, you know, or start opening boxes for a living. You know what I mean? And, you know, and if you want to be rich, go over to business, because they're teaching people how to get rich. We're doing neither here. We're talking about telling stories. And that's what I'm really passionate about.
It's a different class.
Totally, totally. It's a totally different class. Exactly. So that's all like a byproduct. However, I'm going to quote my wife here. I'm not sure if she'll be pleased or not, but my wife, we met in the theatre, although she's not an actor. So she's like you guys, and, you know, although she's not in a creative medium, she's worked around lots of creative people and she understands it. Although she says, you know, I dress up for a living. You know, that's what she says. He just dresses up for a living. But I like that because he keeps my feet on the ground, which is really nice.
Wears makeup.
Yeah, exactly. He wears makeup for a living. That's it. So, but she gets quite annoyed with me because I'm always looking for the next job. And not just because I'm an actor, maybe more the way ironically, you know, acting for me, again, coming back to what you said, Tom, about, you know, that quote, which I really don't know where it's from, but I get it.
I'll send you the link later.
Okay, thank you, yeah. I'll be like, oh, yeah, I did say that. What an idiot. You know, again, it is kind of who I am, because like acting. I can live in the moment as an actor, so that's what I love. When we shout action, or the curtain opens, the audience are there. I can wholeheartedly be totally immersed in one tiny moment, and all the tools are working, everything aligns, and that's like a dream, right? Almost an ethereal experience.
Yeah,
Of being really poncy and very crafty, but it's kind of true.
It's a real state.
Yeah, it's a genuine state, and musicians will recognise it, and
Exactly.
creative people, and anybody, anything. It doesn't matter what you do. If you again found in your tribe or found your thing, if you're driving for a living, whatever it is,
Being in the zone.
that zone exists everywhere, no matter what you're doing, right? And if you can find that thing that gets you in that zone, and you can experience that zone, wow, that's like, So you could say that if you can find that in life, that's you've completed life.
You've arrived.
Yeah, you've done it. Yeah, you've got to the end, and you've been successful because you've done that.
Yeah.
So there's part of me that's like, I do acting because that moment is. The rest of the time, I'm eating one piece of toast, thinking about the next piece. What am I going to have on that piece? So I'm the opposite. I can't live in the moment in any way, shape, or form. So I'm always looking for the next job because of that, and I'm always looking for the next thing, and I'm always thinking like. And there's this analogy, and I'm coming back to the success thing. I promise. There's a brilliant analogy that I listened to on another podcast. There are other podcasts available, and it was about. It was an actor talking, it was a creative person talking. And it was about, when do you pop the champagne? When do you say you've succeeded, you've arrived, you've done it, right? When do you pop the champagne? And I never pop the champagne because I'm waiting for the next gig.
Yeah.
And even probably that age-old thing of like, when you get there, it's never what you expected, and you're looking for the next mountain, right? And et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So there's a brilliant analogy. And it was a guy talking about he supports American football, the New York team. I don't know who the New York team are. It's American football, right? Exactly. They're not like the Dolphins. We don't recognise them, and they're rubbish. And he said, they're terrible, but they're like a home team that you go and support, right? Probably like Waterlooville or whatever, And he said, when they get a down, like it's like 4 downs and all that stuff. Yeah? When they get down, they all cheer. And he was like, we cheered, and like when the away crowd come, they're like, why are they cheering the downs? It's like, because we never get a touchdown. So we celebrate the bits that work for us.
Yeah.
And the touchdowns are so few and far between.
Yeah.
If we only celebrated them, we'd have nothing to celebrate.
Sure.
Yeah.
And he said, that's like some people in creative environments. And again, I know it's every environment. Again, I never look at acting as, a different thing in a pecking order. It's the same as someone wanting to be a builder. It's your investment in it. It's whatever you do. But it really hit home to me of that thing of like, as an actor, you've got to say your success is that you're acting, you're in a job, you're working with creative people, even if you're just about paying the bills, like you're already ahead of the game.
Yeah.
And if you've got a body of work and you're able to come and do stuff like this and like, you think flipping heck, and I'm lucky because I've had real jobs, real rubbish jobs, and I've got a gauge in that.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what pleasure this is compared to those days, And my wife gets frustrated with me coming back to it because the reality of what an actor's life is often is never celebrating those successes because your success is based on this other people looking in. And so I don't feel successful necessarily at times because you're like, well, I'm not where I want to be, or I'm not doing this or not that. But the other thing is, and again, coming back to my wife, she's like, hold on a minute. You've just come off a film set. You're just doing this, and now you're going to do that. And there's a festival at the end of the year you're doing with that thing, and your agent's just called you. But she's like, oh, isn't that everything you dreamed of? Like, isn't that an actor's dream to do all of that?
Yeah. I always say, like, the first time I felt successful, it was when I realised I found the thing where I had no backup plan.
That's lovely. That's great.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was no like this is just me now. This is what I do.
Yeah.
And it might be toast. It might be flipping caviar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It might be champagne. It might be a cup of tea.
Yeah.
But when I was like, I don't have a backup plan. This is me now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's when I felt. That's the first time I felt like really just peaceful and successful.
That's lovely. And I mean, again, it's funny you put those two words together because I think you're right. I think success is like finding peace. and I suppose it's like not being at odds with yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know that's deep. And again, I don't equate that just to creative environments. I create it to everyone. You know, I know people who work in a supermarket and it's their absolute world, and like passion and love. And I'm like,
Yeah, I've
hats
met
off.
people like that in retail.
Good on you.
They are like, they live and breathe it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're where you're supposed to be. Whereas, you know, I wouldn't thrive in that environment. I've
Not
done
me.
that before, and it's not me.
And I'm jealous of them.
Yeah.
Because they found that contentment.
Yeah.
And they're able to go, yeah, I'm successful and I love this. And I'm like, I'm that's the bit I'm jealous of, because and that's my own demons. I know that's my own demons.
And they probably say, I hate to do what you do.
Yeah.
I'd hate to be on a stage. I'd hate to be in front of people.
With everyone looking at me,
Yeah.
and I've got to remember lines, and there's cameras pointing at me, and all that kind
I
of
remember a
stuff.
conversation in the pub with a friend of mine, really good friend of mine, one of my best mates, known him since I was 5. And he said, we were sat in the pub and he's worked for builders merchants as a manager. And we would, I don't know why, he went, do you know what? I said, I've been in my job 16 years this year. And I shuddered with fear and anxiety, and like genuinely had a reaction and I said to him, I can't imagine doing the same job for 16 years. And don't get me wrong, again, he loves it. He's very successful at it. So he's actually successful, you know, in your eyes. You're like, good on you.
Yeah.
And he just said to me, yeah, but I couldn't have had the 16 years of wondering where your next job is. And, you know, to him, he's having an anxiety about, and that is the world, isn't it? That's the horses for courses. And so it's a mixture of all that stuff. You know, it's the thing I'm aware of, and maybe because I'm getting older, I'm getting a little bit better at equating success or equating what you're doing and contentment. Because I know if I could go back 10 years and offer what I've got now in everything, I mean, like my life as well, and my friends, and, you know, everything that's going on in my career, and my son and my wife and all that stuff, and offer that to myself 10 years ago, I'd have gone, yes, please, that sounds a bit of me. So I think as long as I can go back in 10 years' time to this point, and whatever I'm offering, if I'm still interested in what I'm being offered, then isn't that a good thing? You know, that's
absolutely.
And, you know, and I suppose that's I suppose, again, it's a really long answer, apologies, but you know, that is what, I suppose that's what acting is for my journey. It is about all of those kind of things, and again, I'm getting much better at being more content about it, and much better at. And then, of course, then you get fearful of that, because you go, if I'm content, am I going to stop pushing? Am I going to stop fighting and being as tenacious and grabbing and all the stuff that you have to do?
Yeah.
Most actors get out of acting because they couldn't, not because they weren't good, not because they couldn't do it. They couldn't get the balance. They couldn't handle the balance. That's what I truly believe that. And from all the friends I know that are brilliant actors that gave it up, is because of the balance. They couldn't find that thing that kept them going in it long enough to be able to keep pinning the jobs together and sewing the jobs together, but also enjoy life. And all they do is they're stuck in this whirlwind trying to make this career, and they watch life disappear, and it's over there, and they can't equate the two worlds. So they have to give this up to have a bit of that. And I think that that's probably true of most people in the arts, whether you're
Totally.
an artist or a musician
It's a real skill to learn. I've had the same struggle with playing in bands and gigs, and wanting to do all that, and other hobbies that I want to do, and work, and just trying to make sure I'm just not neglecting like the home life, family, friends, like things that matter. They're like big. I call it like rocks. Like everyone's got like rocks they have in life, right? Some are really small, some are really big, but your container is static.
Yeah.
You can't just keep piling like massive rocks or piling loads and loads of little things and then try and have space for all the big rocks on top. You kind of need to get your big rocks in first so that you can make space for all the smaller ones.
Sure.
And then little pebbles and dust and all that kind of stuff can go on top. So it's about figuring out what your priorities are and getting them all in order.
I like that.
That is like, it's a constant, like I have to check myself on that all the time. And it must be even harder for someone who's like kind of managing your own diary. I mean, I'm employed, right? So I'm like, I have a schedule, and no matter what I do, I get paid. Whereas any of the freelancers we work with, yourself, any of the other actors we know, it's job to job.
Yeah.
And so the pressure must be pretty intense.
Yeah, and again, I'm really lucky, and I'll be careful when I say lucky, because it's like I am lucky, and then I'm also in a situation where I'm in a position that I've spent the last 30 years trying to get to. So what I mean by that is, I have a teaching role that is in the place where I trained at. I work with some of the, like the lady who lives in, works in the office just there. She auditioned me when I walked in as a 20-year-old, so it's like it's like this. It's like a family of people I know. And I get the opportunity to write and direct and operate, because, we film stuff as well, and edit and direct and work with actors every day. So when I'm not, so that's all my creative world when I'm not actually acting.
Yeah.
And all of those skills are exactly what I love to do. And again, I'm working with my tribe, because new actors are coming in, and it doesn't matter if they're fresh out and they're 16. Some of them you go, they're part of my tribe. They're going to be an actor and they're going to be great. And so that's...
all those skills inform each other as well, don't they?
Oh, my Lord. Yeah. I mean, massively. Again, I teach essentially an acting for camera pathway. Acting for camera, acting for theatre. We have two pathways. But what we say from the day one, they are not different. You're still the same skills, it's just a slightly different discipline.
Same sort of principles, right?
100%.
That underpin both,
Everything,
both routes. Yeah.
I trained in 5 years in classical theatre, but most of my career's been on screen, purely because that's just how it's happened, and that's what went on. But all those skills are the same, all the principles are the same. It's just a slightly different discipline. But I'm back where I was once, but I'm doing something amazing, and I'm so lucky, because we're all industry people. So they don't get the dusty teacher who's got a poster, I once did a film in 1971. And, it's not that. I bugger off for a few weeks and go and do a job, and I come back and I say to the actors, let me tell you all about it. And I tell them the money, the hours, what went on, the script, the director.
Great.
I tell them exactly what I would have wanted to hear when I was a young actor. I want to know what it is to be an actor, really, like a real
Properly
actor.
behind the scenes, behind the curtain.
All of that, 100%. No sort of airs and graces, and I'm lucky in the sense that because we're all industry people still, we can make it work. I can go off and someone will take over a project for me, and I'll do the same for them. And, so I am a freelancer still, obviously, but I do have an element of my life that gives me a structure, and I've had that for about 6 or 7 years now. So that means some money is paid, some bills are paid, some mortgage is done, and there is flexibility. Again, I know, going back 10 years, 5 years, if I offered that to myself, I'd be like, yes, please. Because before finding, and again, it is a continuation. I've been working towards all of this stuff for years, getting the right agent, working with the right companies, and being asked back and all that stuff. That's taken all the time I've been working. And so, when they say, much like a musician, much like a creative person, much like anything, it takes 20 years to be an actor. Yeah, it does, because you've got not just about learning who you are and what you are and life experience and honing your skills, but also getting your ducks in a row. It takes that long to get all your stuff together, for you to be able to say, now I can do this and stay in it, and it's sustainable. I have a wife who works as well, I should say, who also has a real job. So, between us, we make it work, and we're very lucky. And it is hard. You do sacrifice everything, I've missed birthdays and, parties and family barbecues, and I've done that my whole life. And I've always, I feel for my wife incredibly, because if she turns up to the barbecue or the do or whatever it is, and it's just her and my son, and everyone goes, they know, they'll tell, Paul, away, he's away at work, and it's fine. Everyone's cool with that, and it works, but there's also a balance, that sometimes I feel the pinch. I've been away quite a lot recently with some projects, but also personal stuff. I'm away next week on a movie for a few days, and then I'm away again at the end of the month. And I said to the in-laws this week, and again, I'm not looking for brownie points, but it's just balance in life, if anyone's life. I said, can you have our son? Yeah. I said, great. I've got some tickets for Hamilton. Let's take the missus to London and see a show and do the thing, And that was nice. And you have to do that again, because equally, coming back to those actors who give up because they can't, they're looking at, what's getting married and having children and having a mortgage like? And they kind of want to do that, but they can't. They feel like that those two don't mix. And I know why, because they very rarely mix. And most actors can't pay them. I think it's 2% now. They used to say 4%. When I first got into acting 20 odd years ago, they said it was 4% of actors make enough money just on acting. Now it's gone down to 2%.
Wow.
So I don't know what happened to that other 2%, but that's what they say. I mean, that's including everyone in Hollywood and all of that.
Yeah.
2% of actors worldwide make enough money solely on acting.
Wow.
But I wonder how they equate that. Because I come and work for you guys as a job. I'll do 3 jobs a year. It's not enough for me to pay any bills, but I come and get a day's money as an actor. So that to me is me being an actor. You know what I mean? Me going to do this corporate work is me being an actor. Me writing and directing with young actors is me being an actor. So I'm in a position.
What's the definition? Yeah. So you technically should be in that 2%, or should the 2% really be more like 5% if we
very good point.
change the
change the parameters. Yeah, because that's the other thing that I talk to young actors about when they ask about what is an actor's life about. I'm like, well, it's not just all of this stuff. There's a whole world of work you can make money on as an actor because you have a skill set. I trained for 5 years, and I like to say to my wife, who always sort of knocks it and scoffs and leaves the room, that's how long a junior doctor trains for. I said, come on, you know what I mean? If I was in any other, you could, again, in your bitter days and your sort of sycophantic days where you're letting the demons win, I'd sometimes say to myself, I trained in, the place I teach at is really well recognised. Like, it's a very well recognised college, and what we do is we get Ofsted say it's outstanding, and people come to us and go, wow, look at what you're delivering. And that's not, me patting myself on the back. That's where I went, and the system is recognised very much it's very much recognised in the industry, because we have lots of people go to drama schools and things, and they love the kids that come from our place, because they really, when they turn up to drama school, they kind of know it already. They know a lot of the first year, not just in the skills, but they know the system. They'll arrive in blacks. They'll be standing focused, ready to listen, and they know that world already. They haven't come from an A-level background. I'm not saying A-levels aren't great for drama and stuff, but they've basically worked as an actor. We've just finished the end of year project, and you've got a group of 9 actors who have just been through a year, and the final project we've done, we spent 3.5 weeks developing character and scripts from pre-written scripts, 3.5 weeks of principal photography, where they were part of the crew as well. So I'm directing, 2 actors are in the scene. My DP, sound, lighting, runner, first AD, and anybody else are those young actors. So they're doing it. We're shooting. We're on nice equipment, nice cameras. I'm then going and editing in Adobe and all industry standard stuff. Yeah. They've got 9 scenes that you could put under a casting director today, and they'd go, wow, look at that. 2 things about that. One is, when I was an actor, there was none of that. You'd love to have that. And 2, you can go and get that from a company, if you like, for $1,000, if it's decent and everything else. So they have this wonderful thing to have already. I mean, it's like, wow, how things have changed for them to have that. I don't even know why I'm talking about that now, but
yes, it's what it's like in the here and now, in the different spaces that you operate. I mentioned a second ago, and you were alluding to it, the kind of the behind the scenes look. I think there's a lot of people listening to this and watching it that aren't in your world, but really interested to hear what is it about. And you've revealed quite a lot of stuff, which has been great. I had a specific question around, like, what's the difference between working? Obviously, I know how we work together. We've got a lot of experience in the kind of a lot of the corporate space, content creation, short form video, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, that kind of thing. What's the difference between working in our kind of world compared to working in like the TV, the Netflix, the kind of the movie world? How does, like, you can talk as much or as little as you want about it, but yeah, just keen to know, like, what does the casting process look like compared to what it is with how we work? What's the production look like? I've been a is it supporting artist?
Yeah.
I've been a supporting artist on a movie just because I played trombone, not because I had any acting.
Yeah, but great.
I've seen a little bit, but literally like 5 days on it's a Brad Pitt movie back in 2016 called Allied.
Amazing.
That's fun. And I was just sat there, West London soundstage, miming with an earwig. It's Brad Pitt walking around.
Amazing.
Absolutely mind blowing just to see it. And I wasn't even. I was in sales then. Like that was like a previous
I like the way
career.
they got you in because you played a trombone, but you were miming. I could have done
I
that.
know. Anyone could have done it. But what was amazing was just the attention to detail that all the production people had. It was mind blowing because they would like age the music that I was looking at. The camera was all the way over the other side of the soundstage, pointing like towards the band's direction. No one's going to see the music, but it was just in case the director suddenly went, "I want to try a different angle. Can we move the camera over here?" So everyone was ready. But yeah, literally like 5 days.
Nice though.
A little bit of hair and makeup. That was really, really cool. But very, very, yeah. Just it was, yeah. Of course, it's different, but you've done loads of that. So yeah, it'd be good to understand.
I think the first thing is that often actually the fundamentals are no different. It's scale is what comes into it straight away. And actually, what you've just talked about, Will, is so worthy and so like incredible. And again, I say to all my young actors, so part of this thing they've just shot, they also worked when I'm really up for new experiences for these actors. So I work with the media team who are basically young filmmakers, right? They're about to go off to film school. So their last project is making short films. So guess what? They need actors. And I've got young actors who need work. So I'm like, hey, let's put these together.
Yeah.
So part of what they've just done, they went off and worked for these film guys, right? Now, don't get me wrong, lots of these are young filmmakers who don't know how to direct yet. They don't know how to work with actors. They've all made films before. They probably know how lenses work. They know of composition and a bit of sound and a bit of lighting. Some of them really got clear ideas already. But often, they've not worked with actors, which you'd think, I mean, especially from my angle, because I'm the actor, you'd think it'd be so key to what they're doing. But it's often they've used their friends and they don't, when they look through a monitor, they're not looking at performance. They're going, oh, that works, the lighting's good. They're not thinking of that autonomy that you need to do. And you guys know, because you've all been on set and done it.
Yeah.
And it's everyone's working to that, what's in that lens, what's through that lens, what's on that monitor, every detail, whether it's the lighting, the sound, the production, the makeup, everything is minute detail. And that is true of things that we've done on our scale, or even those guys doing student films. Or if you go and do a Netflix show, or you're on Paramount, or it's a movie with loads of money, it's all finite details. The only difference really is a great analogy. A friend of mine went on, he did an essay job on Skyfall, Bond thing, right? Yeah. Because he wanted to go and watch Mendes working, and he was a filmmaker. He's a filmmaker, and funny enough, he works for the media department for that. But and he wanted to watch Roger Deakins, who's like the man of the man, right? If there's anything shot beautifully, he's the DOP of the DOPs, right? He's the Don DOP, and he wanted to watch him. And one of the things he said it was the courtroom scene, and there was a light that was just kind of very nice, a real set, it's a real location, but obviously it's all falsely lit and dressed and everything else. But it's a real, human actual place. It's not like been built in a studio. And there was a light that was wrong, and a window at the top that was wrong. And, Roger Deakins is looking through his 15 monitors and Mendes is going, and they sort of go, that kind of doesn't work. And within minutes, there is a team of people removing a window and building it into a wall or covering it or doing something they do so that shirt is perfect. Yeah. That's the scale of difference sometimes. And that's the only difference really, is that you can change anything and everything on those shows because there is money and people waiting to do it. Yeah. Whereas, as you guys know, a lot of filmmaking, and I'll be careful saying this, I'm really careful when I talk to young filmmakers and actors getting into it, is there is a lot of compromise in filmmaking, as you guys know. There's we'll make that work. I call it problem solving, actually, because it's better to say, well, that doesn't work, but this will work. Yeah. So that is a compromise, but it's equally about problem solving, a much more positive way of looking at it.
That's right.
the more stuff you've got, the more people you've got, the easier it is to solve those problems. But the more working parts, the more problems there are going to be.
Yeah.
So, and as you guys know, probably in the same world as you guys operate, the bigger the budget, the higher the expectation on the deadline. So there's the other thing, that expectation becomes, whereas some of the stuff that I do, some of the best stuff I do, no one's ever seen it and it didn't matter. But because of that, it meant everyone could just creatively flex their muscles in every way. And you go, whoa, we made something really special there. Because coming back to the other difference from, so let's say like the work we do and the work I do, that's absolutely, I think, is imperative as an actor, and you should be out doing that stuff. Technically or craft-wise, there's one big difference, which is your intentions. Because I know you have, so with the work we do, you have an outcome you need because it's telling a story, and you know what that story is. It's a lesson or a message corporately that you need to tell. So what I do for you guys is aim at that. So that's where I'm aiming at. Whereas if I'm doing a scene in a play or doing a scene in a film and we're across the desk like this and I know my character and you know your character and we know where the plot's going and I know where the beats are in this scene, I know where this scene's got to get to. It gets to a point where I don't know, let's say I've had enough of you and I leave, right? So I know that's, but how I get there is down to the acting, it's down to the process. Now my job is to do all the work on that script and know every moment and know all those intentions. But my job isn't, which is the massive misconstrued thing, especially young actors coming in, is that I have to learn those lines in a certain way so that I know I can do it the same every time. That's like you guys playing instruments. Yes, you're going to play the notes, same chord, but the way you played it, the intention behind the way you played it, the mood that night, the mood that you were in, that was completely human because you were tired that day and you was annoyed that day or you'd come from an argument that day or you didn't have any lunch. All those things that you still say they play the same notes, but it wasn't the same piece. It wasn't the same night. It wasn't the same concert. It wasn't the same performance. That's just like what real acting is in the sense of it's much more visceral and exploratory. With what we do and with the corporate stuff is, I can do that to some degree, but effectively we know where we need to get to. We know where we need to aim to. So I still have to do all the same skills. I still prep in the same way. I still do all the work that I would do on a script. I just make sure I give you your A, B, and C because that's what you want. And then on a couple of takes, I might give you a wild card that might be a bit fun or something that you know. And so in that regard, there's massive crossover and massive similarities. And then there's this other sort of world of difference because it's about the outcome or the process. You know, the truth is, as an actor who's worked mainly in film and TV and theatre and screen, the ones I've enjoyed the most are the films that feel like a theatre process. So at the moment I'm about to film next week. There's no rehearsals. I haven't been on set yet. I haven't met anybody yet. However, I've spent 3 or 4 weeks with the script and I've had 4 or 5 meetings on Zoom with the director. And I can ping him messages all the time that he wants, and we can talk about character. Group. And we're on a WhatsApp group. We are. And yesterday I spoke to the girl who's playing my wife in it, and just chucked her a few ideas and a few bones, and she's doing the same. And I'm a big fan of voice notes at the moment because I can listen in the car and message in the car when we're doing stuff. Good old voice notes. Ross loves them.
I'm just getting used to it. I tried to send you one the other day. I was like,
delete message. I texted. I said to him, "This is take 4." Isn't it? I could see there was 3 others that he'd had to delete. I'd like to say mine were the first take, but But that's a theatre process. There's not going to be any rehearsals. There'll be rehearsals on day one when we're in it, and we'll find it on the set, and we'll find it in the moment, and all that stuff. But there's more. There's still more. There's going to be exploration there. So again, the scale is an interesting one because those big things that I go and do, that you turn up for, it can feel a bit cold sometimes. Yes, lovely to be picked up from home. An executive car picks you up. And, you're met with a coffee and a second AD looking after you. "Hey, Mr. Marlon, yes, it's your trailer, it's your costume." Oh, brilliant. But then sometimes the reality is when you get on set, it's very cold. I've done big jobs. I did an ITV job when I was first out of drama school for Frost.
Yeah.
I met the director when I did the audition, got the gig. I couldn't have been more pleased. I was working with David Jason. I was like a kid in a sweet shop. I was like,
legend.
David Jason gets out of the car and is walking towards me. I'm a young actor, fresh out of drama school, and I'm like, that was one of those moments you go, I've arrived. You know what I mean? That was a lovely moment.
He's a hero.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And he was a
love him.
ledge. He was an absolute ledge. And it's the only time I've ever been, still to this day, that I've been on the set where the actor's in charge, because he's like exec producer, and this is like he'd been on it for years, and you know what it's like. You have to wait for the crew. When the crew are ready, now the actors can come in, and your job is to be ready, because they've been there since 5 a.m, and I'm only needed for 2 hours, so you better be flipping ready. Do you know what I mean? And again, because I've been on the other side of it, I come from a very raw filmmaking point of view. I've been in the cold at 5 a.m. doing the setup. So when actors, again, I'm quite strict with my coaching as well with like young actors. I'm like, you better be ready, because your job's to be ready. Because that lighting guy has been in that corner since 5 o'clock this morning. He's knackered. He was on the late shoot last night as well. So he ain't got time for you to mess up 3 times and you know have a meltdown because there's not the right milk for your coffee. Do you know what I mean? So you better crack on.
Yeah.
But the scale of it is often the thing, and the way that you end up doing the work. Because that job, I met the director in the audition, and then the truth is when I got on set, because there was loads of stuff going on. He was behind a bank of monitors over there. I didn't speak to him once. Yeah. I got messages through the first AD about the lines and the scene. Me and David Jason comes on, young actor, and goes, "So should we run our lines?" I was like, "Yeah, all right then." Thinking, "Oh God, what a moment," And of course, I've been up all night in a hotel going over those lines like they're Bible. He's probably just looked at the script. Yeah, okay, yeah. And that's the difference, And but yeah, it was a great job. It was great. Did I get like a creative satisfaction out of it? Probably not. Did I walk away and go, yeah, I'm an actor on a set and an ITV job? Yeah, it's brilliant. Your agent rings you and you can these days put it on your socials. You know what I mean? There's that part of it, but all that means nothing. It's like, what did you get out of that job? Yeah. And I'm always trying to mix those two worlds. So I have a very indie career. This thing next week's low budget. It's going to pay some bills. I'm not going to retire. It's not mega bucks. It'll be shoestring. You can always judge. You can always judge the productions on the lunch. If it's sponsored by Tesco, you know what you're on. And when a van pulls up and they're doing, moussaka in the middle of the afternoon in a woods, you go, they got some money, these guys.
Making a note, get Paul better lunch.
Yeah. You guys get it right. You always hit it right. You always hit it just right. Yeah. There's that place where you go, they do like really lovely platters. When we were in Southsea.
Trenches.
It's good.
Love Trenches. Yeah. Wickham. Love them.
But that's the stuff that kind of, that you love. If I could cross those two worlds, the indie world where there is creative time and even though there's money, there's not that pressure of we have to make this product this way. It's got to be exact. We find it. We have a creative process, a theatrical process, and we make something that everyone's really passionate about and really care about. And that's not to say at the other end of the scale that's not happening. And I've done, in all the time I've been acting, there's probably a handful of jobs that mix those worlds in the sense that they tick the 3 things I say yes to a job for. Is it going to pay some bills? Are the people interesting? Is the job interesting? If I can tick all 3 of those, brilliant. But often you'd only tick 2. Money was good and the director was great. The script was terrible. The role wasn't great. Or it's a commercial. Yeah, I mean, I've got to pick up this and smile and look this way. But I'm getting flown to Prague for 7 days and they're paying me $8,000. You're like, yeah, I'll do that.
All right.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, that'll be fine. So it's, and again, it's being picky because I would pull my own arms off, 10 years ago to have some of the jobs that I've done. Yeah. But those jobs that tick all of those ones that have Brad Pitt kicking about in and that level of detail where they've got money enough to make the music look old. And the director wants to work with actors and wants to get the best performance. Yeah. That's like,
Yeah. So here's a question. In terms of picking 2 of those, or you have a job that only fulfills one of those, for example, I can speak and blow smoke up your ass. Working with yourself, like there's been a few jobs that we've done with you that perhaps are less interesting than another job that you may have done. From a creative perspective, or from a collaborative, in terms of this character can be X, Y, and Z, and I can bring all this thing. But what I certainly witnessed, and I think about the very first time I remember working with you, was you brought to that job, to that set, just like professionalism, creativity, and what you brought. Like we went through quite a big casting process. I remember we were trying to cast your character, which has become Dave, the hacker. And I remember Will and I, for probably weeks, were looking at tapes and we're like, no, it's not right.
No,
and then we saw yours and we're like, yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah.
But then you never really know who's going to turn up until they turn up. And we kind of went through and you just did your thing and we were like, yeah, that's it. That's what we need.
That's the character.
But also, once we locked in, you talked about kind of the corporate jobs and perhaps kind of smaller scale. You're working towards achieving this message or delivering this message. We achieved that, but you still, once we knew we nailed that, you were like, "Can I try something a bit different?" And we're like, "Yeah, let's go for it." And that was probably the take that we used in the edit, because you were able to bring all of that knowledge, all of that skill set, but all that creativity to the role. And then, kind of earlier, just to kind of go back, you were talking about, it's nice to have those larger scale jobs maybe when you have the trailer, but actually you're going to be on the set because you like, you experience that and you like watching that. And we work with lots of actors, presenters, depending on what we're doing. And I think we love working with those who are that way inclined, because it's collaborative and we're in this together and we're creating this thing. Like Will and I were on set on a job not too long ago where we cast a guy in a fairly small role. He was playing a chauffeur, and he happened to let us know on the first day that he was on set. So he was on set 2 days, that he was like, "Oh, I'm really excited to be here," and like he helped us carry cases in to the set. But he was like, "Oh, by the way, like I love the role, like I'm well up for it, but just so you know, my day job, I'm a stunt coordinator." And he's like, "I can see there's a fight scene coming up on like day 2. He's like, "If you want a hand, I'd just love to get involved." And then day 2 came up, and being completely honest, like none of us are stunt coordinators, and this was a very, very like
Involved.
1 week pre-production, 2 week pre-production for like a huge, quite a large scale project. So we were just, for that, we were like, we'll figure it out when we get there. We get to the second day, and he was like, "Still happy to be involved, guys." Like, and he was hanging out on set the whole time we were shooting, just chatting, really nice guy. So we were like, "Yeah, please do." As soon as we kind of handed the reins over, if you like, he was like, "Right, I need you to stand here. You're going to throw this punch," and we just all stand back, and we were like, "This is amazing!" Like, but what
Came
I think,
in on wires.
and it turned out awesome, didn't it? Like it was incredible.
Great
But I
scene.
think what he did is similar to what we've experienced with yourself. It's this joint kind of process. It's this, we're in this together. And I can't speak for you guys, but I'm assuming probably the same. Like I find it really fatiguing when we work with maybe some actors or presenters where it's very clear that this job is not important to them. And they're, the questions that are coming to me if I'm producing the project is, can I get some footage for my reel, or can I get a photo for my socials? And I'm like, yeah, you can, but can you just focus on the job at hand? It's like,
What time?
Yeah.
I was going to say the 2 questions, and
I've got
know
a
it.
train to catch.
Can you just
and
make
again-
sure I've got like oat milk?
Yeah,
in my coffee?
yeah.
Yeah.
But those 2
That's
questions you get,
Yeah.
what time are we finishing, and what time do we break
Yeah.
for lunch?
Yeah.
They are so telltale, aren't they?
Yeah.
And
Big
you
time.
guys know you've worked with more. I would probably venture between you. You've worked with more actors than I have. Do you know what I mean? And in more varied ways. It's such a telltale, and it's such a. If I'm honest, it kind of makes my blood boil a little bit. And again, I'm really, I'm quite a growly kind of acting coach, really.
Sure.
My students sometimes are like, if a phone goes off, the silence around the set is just, it's like, is he going to go mad? Is he going to? Yeah, I'm going to go mad. Yeah, I'm going to go mad. But again, it's just because I know like stuff like that is so disrespectful. And for me, well, there's a couple of things. I always talk about the photocopier day. And what I mean by that is that, and again, it's no disrespect to anybody, but if you work in an office and you ain't in it, and it's not your day to day, and things are not on your case, and and you're not in that zone, and you know, let's say you're hungover, not feeling well, your pet's died, whatever's going on in your life, you might just hang around the photocopier a little bit longer today, you know. And again, I've done real jobs where the metaphor of that has happened. You know, I'm just going to get through today. Just going to get that done.
You have a long poo this morning.
Yeah, exactly. yeah. In fact, so much so. Yes. There was. I remember working in a factory, and this was like really early days. I don't think I was even quite an actor then. And there was a quiz on the toilet walls because people spent so long there. They would write a movie question, and you'd be in there answering it, and then you have to answer. People was in that toilet for so long, and there was people falling asleep in that toilet. You know, it was those ones.
I think following from what Sam said, just as genuinely just meant as a compliment to you. We work with people who do the bare minimum and get the job done. Yeah, and sometimes that's fine.
Yeah.
But, you know, I definitely see you somebody who everything I've seen that you've been involved in, I see you actually elevating it. You actually try and make it better, and you try and go the extra mile. There's no like, well, that's not really what you're paying me to do. Yeah. I'm not. That's a bit below my pay grade. Do you know what I mean? Like which happens in all jobs. Yeah. But you know, for anyone, use Paul. That's why.
But what a cheek. You've just explained it, Sam. You know, you go through that casting process. So you've spent your time looking for the right person. Probably before that, they've come to you. You didn't find them. They sent you a tape, right? They said, I'd like to have this job, please.
That's generally how it works. We put a casting call out and they apply.
So they said, you know, I'd like to have that job, please. And you said, thank you very much. You're the right person. And then they come on set, and then it's like you're bothering them. Like, you know, how much time of, you know, I could have been doing something else today.
I booked the train ticket for like 2:00, so can I make sure we get out there?
Then don't apply for the job. Yeah. And also apply for another job where you don't have to worry about that. Yeah. You know, again, it's like I say, you know, if you want to make some money, go to the business. If you want to have a job where you always know you can get away by 2:00, get a window cleaning job. They're done by 1:30 and I'll throw it.
And if it's an indie film, if it's Butlins, if it's a TV ad, and it's maybe a bit lower budget, or this for me, it's always do it happily or don't do it at all.
100%.
Like be present, do it really happily. Might be 200 quid, it might be 2,000 quid.
My friend Joe,
if it's a problem, don't say yes.
My friend Joseph Milson, brilliant actor, and he's like the hardest working unknown actor. When I say unknown, you look him up, you'll see a million things he's in, and you'll know him. Yeah. But no, you could sit in, you'll be like, who's Joe, right? And I met him on a film last year, the year before. We've become really good buddies, and he genuinely is he's got a very posh agent and he's always working. But again, he's like me. He comes with an energy, he comes with a care, and everything he does. And he said a brilliant thing, and I've kept this one, and I'm passing this one on again. You've got to be in love with the curse. You know, the curse of wanting to be an actor, wanting to be creative, wherever it was, musicians or whatever it is, that's going to be a hard thing. And it's going to be days where you turn up, and you've got to be in love with that.
Because.
Yeah. And so if you're in love with that curse, you never can put it down. When you get a chance to do it, you have to just grab that with both hands. And, you know, and when I say I've done every job, I mean literally, my friend had his own cleaning company for years. And I'm very grateful. He's a very good friend of mine. And I'm very grateful for the 20 years that in between acting jobs, I was cleaning toilets. Or I can remember being in a golf club at 4:00 in the morning, scrubbing the men's showers of like body fat and feeling like this is the lowest point in my life. And the worst bit about it wasn't even the job, because I got quite a lot of satisfaction out of cleaning. You know, that sort of feeling where, look at that, I did that, it's great. Yeah. It's the judgment of it and the perception of people. It's when somebody coming into the golf club comes in at 5:00 and they've made their money and they're retired. I'm being judgy here, but I'm trying to just sort of personify my feelings of these moments. They come in and you're in their way, and to them, you're dirty, sweaty little urchin who's failed in life. That's why you're cleaning that wall. Well, I'm dirty because I've been here since 4. I'm wearing these clothes because I wouldn't wear my suit to do this job. And you don't know that I've just got off the set of a film. I've got a degree. I've worked really. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And it's not like you want to carry your CV around with you. And again, that stuff means nothing to me, because I wouldn't walk into a room and say, do you know I'm an actor? I'm quite the opposite. But there are moments where you feel like you're being judged at that.
Yeah.
And they're the lowest points in your life. So when I'm on set and you want me to go again, I'm like, yeah, let's go again. You want me to do another one? Yeah. Sure, that one's right. Let's have a go at that one. Of course, yeah. Flipping heck, I'm going to do that. And again, I think to myself, when I think about actors, and then again, I get it. I get it with young actors. Like, what time are we finishing today? When we're done.
When I say we're done.
Yeah. When we're done. That's it. When the job's done. When the job's done, when it's in the can, and you can go happy. Then you can go happy because also, how do you go home happy as an actor?
Yeah.
It's like when people say to me, and I get it a lot, Paul, do you want to look for the monitor? Do you want to have a look at that one? And I say to the director, are you happy? They say, yeah. And I'm happy. That's my job, is to give you what you want, right? There's two reasons I wouldn't do that. One is because it's nothing to do with me. I've done my bit. Actually, what's in the camera now is your job. It's your role. My job is to give it to you. And if you feel that you've got it, if not, give me something else and maybe make a suggestion or, again, be collaborative about that. And that goes from whether the sound people are happy or the lighting's happy. And again, it's my job to collaborate with you guys and make sure that I'm doing the right thing. You hear it all the time. I've got this big beard and hair at the moment. I've left all of this because I'm about to go into a process where I need to cut. So they've got options.
Yeah.
And then you get, Paul, would you mind cutting your hair? No, I'm an actor. What does the role need? What do you want? What do you, genuine, what do you need? Because I'll do it. That's my job, right? That's who I am.
Yeah.
I remember sitting in a trailer and in the morning having your hair done, for a show and for a film I did, and I can hear the actor over here. Oh, what are you doing? I was just going to... No, don't cut that. No, don't cut me hair. No. Can we just get it? Oh, yeah. And they always make do. To me, I'm like, well, why are you an actor then?
Yeah.
Don't get a job in Tesco's. I promise you, if you work for Tesco's, you'll never be asked to cut your hair in a certain way or remove your beard or wear a certain costume or... Do you know what I mean? And again, all that cheeky stuff. I think those actors need to go and clean that shower and work out what it feels like.
Yeah.
Because then they'll be very grateful of whatever milk they've been given for their coffee.
Yeah. And perhaps not always be chasing that elusive success and realising that I'm on set. I'm being paid to do what I want to do.
But that
is success.
Again, Sam, you're absolutely right. And I said to you earlier, I've genuinely got better at that. And it is because I've worked with so many different people. And there is, and I mean this from, I wouldn't say something that I don't mean. I'm quite a genuine person and put things on the table. I drive down to a job with, say, you guys, in the same way I'll be driving to a Scorsese set. I have got music on. I'm probably in the zone thinking about what I'm doing that day. I'm probably running lines. But I can tell you what, I don't feel, A, like I'm driving to work, or B, I'm happy as Larry. I'm absolutely happy as Larry. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm coming to work.
Yeah.
I know we're going to get in it. We're about to go into that mad state, which is like, we've got to create something here.
The zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the truth is, you guys get very good at it, and you are very good at it. Again, you're one of those companies that I'd come to work for like that because I know what it's going to be. It's going to be a great day, and we're going to get it done, and we're going to get involved, and we're going to have the tussle of. And of course, none of us really know, are we going to get it?
Yeah.
Are we going to be able to do this today? Are we going to be able to achieve that? And the only way you do obviously counter that is how you do it very well, which is be bloody organised and say, let's get that.
And like you say, we're finished when we're done.
I'll let you know. Yeah, I'll let you know. Yeah, it's not, Again, I think that's about set up as well. Again, you got to set your life up so you can do that.
Yeah.
My wife, absolute support in my life. If I'm off filming, she'll just go, don't worry about us. Got this all sorted, if you're not going to be home for this time or whatever. She knows that, there's too many. Otherwise, spend all your time ringing home going, we've overrun. Yeah, no shit, Sherlock, it's filming.
That's it. I think we're all pretty lucky to have very understanding wives. When there's a shoot day, it's when we're done. I try to be home for this time. This is what I'm aiming for. But if it runs on, it runs on. If there's traffic, there's traffic. We're often in London. Who knows what's going to happen?
And even like your focus, right? Again, like the other thing I love is that bubble, like a gig. It's that bubble. You're on set. Everyone's there for this one thing. And like you said, well, it's today. Today we've got to get it. So it's like we're blessed because you don't have time to pick your phone up and start worrying about what's going on the socials or someone's called you about something, or
Yeah.
even like, I'm stressing about that job I got to do next week. It all goes away.
Yeah.
You're in this lovely bubble, this creative bubble, and that's you're bloody lucky to get that, really.
100%.
Exactly.
And I think I appreciate, and I'm sure we all appreciate the fact that you tell your or teach your students, that when it's your time to go, be ready to go. Because for us, we're here loading a truck at 3 a.m. and then, traveling to a location and setting up for 5 hours before maybe the first actor arrives. And then, the day, some of those days about the project we were talking about earlier, I think we did 4 shoot days. Every day was 21 hours minimum.
Wow.
Minimum.
But that's what we do. But to flip it around the other side, so we appreciate actors who come ready to go. But for you as an actor, working with a company like us, or other production companies you might work with on the set, what do you appreciate from that production company? What is it that gives you a great experience? That if you could speak to all the production companies of the world, all the sets of the world, what really supports an actor to bring their A game, to be ready when they need to go, but to just give them a great experience, to hopefully support to that feeling of I've just done something that's contributing to my feeling of success?
I think it's about, if you want to be a production company, and what I mean by that, I don't know what you would call yourselves, because you do so much stuff, so varied, right? Yeah. But at some point, you create a set. At some point, you say, we're going to make a piece of film, whatever that is, corporate, whatever it is, right?
Yep.
So because you've invested in that, what you guys do is you don't cut corners. So we are filming. So therefore, we need this equipment, these people, and this attitude, and do it like this. We do it like Scorsese's doing it up the road, right? On whatever scale or level it is. And you respect that process. Some companies don't do that. They want the kudos. Some producers and filmmakers don't do this. They want that kudos of, we're making a piece of film, and again, on any scale, on any level, for whatever reason or outcome. But they don't want to respect the process. So, we haven't got makeup today, we couldn't afford it, blah 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 blah. I get that, understand that, fine, yeah. Oh, and also, the guy doing the sound, he hasn't got any mic, so you have to speak up louder because the camera. Blah, blah, blah. Right, okay, right, yeah. But then, more importantly, it'll be more nitty-gritty stuff. It'll be like this. There's some brilliant young filmmaker who knows everything about lenses and composition and filming that you can believe, but has no idea how to work with an actor. And so there's no notes coming, there's no information coming, and I'm in front of a camera using every bit of my experience going, okay, right, I think they're setting up for a 2-shot there, right, okay, I see, right, and I think they're going to, let me look at this, right, that must be that scene now, right, okay. It's all of that stuff.
Communication.
So the briefing.
Do the briefing and have someone in charge of it, or have a group of people who understand what you're about to do. Because, even on a corporate, as you guys know, maybe I'm not as, I don't need to be as in depth, or maybe in such a state of readiness that I might be, for example, next week on this movie. There's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of intensity. I'll be headphones in, not talking to people, kind of getting in those moments and for those certain scenes. You guys know the other thing is, there's always a cross with me, because I love that, because I need that as a process. I need to be in the right place. But like I just said, also, I love to be on set. So I don't want to be the actor who doesn't want to talk to everyone, because I'm like, headphones out, let's have a giggle, because that's what the in-between bits are. Because also, if you're just intense for 12 hours, it means nothing when you come to shout action. You're not saving those little vibrant moments that need to happen. That said, you still need to be treated in a certain way. An actor, it's come back to that thing you said about, so you've hired that actor for a reason. I remember Peter Ferdinando at a screen festival I went to. Peter Ferdinando's a really great British actor. Look him up, you'll know him. He's in loads of stuff. And he's telling me about a job that he did, and he was in the Guy Ritchie King Arthur thing, right? It was bad film, but he's got loads of brilliant British actors in, right?
Fun movie though.
It's a fun movie, yeah. Neil Maskell, who I trained with, he was at the Miskin with me. He was kind of doing what I was doing back then before he went kind of into the stratosphere. Great actor, nice guy, and Peter was in that, and Peter's like me. He's coming through like independent film, doing loads of really indie stuff that no one's ever seen, you know. And he does this brilliant film with Gerard Johnson, who again is a British filmmaker. He does lots of money comes from Europe. You won't know who he is, but you'll see stuff and go, wow. He did a film called Muscle recently with Craig Fairbrass and Cavan. I can't remember his name. He's a really nice guy, great actor. Anyway, brilliant film. Check it out, anyone. But they make brilliant movies with brilliant stuff. And he was saying that he gets a job because they want Peter. They saw him in another movie and they want, we want you to do that. Okay, great. But then when he gets on set, they haven't got time for him to do what he wants to do, or he hasn't got time to prep, and there's not enough communication, or the director's not working in the same way, and he's more crew-led than he is actor-led, and there's not enough balance. And so, you know, he's trying to give you, and he's like, if you've employed me to give you what you liked before, you need to give me the circumstances and the environment in which to give you that, right? If you want a great lawn, like on, you know, in your garden, you need to do the things that lawn requires. Water it regularly, give it the right nutrients, don't have this, don't have that. Don't be playing cricket on it every night and not watering it and wondering why it's not giving you what you want it to do, right?
You respected the process.
Exactly. Yeah. And so you guys always do that, you know, and again, you know, on the work we've done together, it doesn't matter to me if it's a corporate or it's, you know, or it's for Chris Nolan. The processes are the same. Same way as, again, Neil Maskell, funny enough, he played Winston Churchill for a couple of scenes in Peaky Blinders, right?
I remember.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's only like one scene. I think maybe two scenes, right?
Yeah.
He did a great job. Good on you, Neil. And I remember him saying in an interview, he very rarely does interviews, but he said in an interview, that was in the same time that Gary Oldman was doing
That's right.
The Darkest Hour, or whatever that film was called, you know, and he said, my prep's the same as his.
Yeah, sure.
I've got to spend the same amount of time learning this character and working this character on the script, blah, blah, blah. And I've got 3 lines.
Yeah.
He's got a whole movie. But to create that, I've got to go through that same process.
I remember thinking it's funny they're out at the same time, actually.
Really weird. And, you know, I love Neil and he's a great actor, but to go up against Gary Oldman, you know, you're like, this is a tough shout. You know, this is a tough gig. But again, it's that, and it's that process. You guys, and I would expect that from anybody. If you're hiring me as an actor, then allow me to do my job for you, and I promise you, I will do it as best I can for you. No holds barred. You know what I mean? I'm not going to treat you any different to the way I'm going to be on set for a big movie. You've hired me as an actor.
So would your advice then be ask like better questions? Like, we love that. We loved it when you did this, or we want you to do this. Yeah. What's the right environment or setup for that to happen?
For
almost
this particular role, what do you need from us?
It's information. It's respect the process. Make sure whoever's steering the ship knows what they're doing, so that they've worked with actors. They understand that some actors. I mean, it's a pain in the ass because I get it. Every actor has a different process, and again, my job as a coach is not to say act like me. Here's the tools. However you use them is down to you. Every carpenter works in a different way. You know what I mean? They use the same tools, but they work differently. But you have to give that environment. You have to make sure that whatever you know. Maybe that's that. Maybe it's that. Talk to your actor. Find out what the way they like to work. Well, okay, fine. Does that work for you? Great. That works for us. We'll make that work.
Right.
And you can't. But equally, you can't pander to that.
Yeah.
You know, an actor. Oh no! Listen, I need an hour's lay down in between takes. I shot. This is such an actor thing. This is so the difference between, and again, I'm so hybrid because I've worked behind the camera lots, and because I'm very working class and never left those roots behind, you know, and also, you know, find yourself in very thespy actory worlds, which again, I love to be in.
Yeah.
But there's moments where I go, the boy from Dartford can't help thinking it. We were in Lanzarote shooting this movie for a week, and again, low budget, sounds very like, you know, glamorous. It wasn't, and it was we were shooting on the plane we weren't supposed to, and all that stuff. We had 2 villas, one was full of the crew and one was full of the actors. Not because we wanted to separate, but it's easier for you guys to get up in the morning and all your stuff's there and load up the van rather than come across to the, you know what I mean, all of that.
Yeah.
There was one milk in their fridge In the actors one, there were 6. 6 different milks.
Wow.
And in that villa, apart from me, I always see that on a contract, and it says dietary requirements or allergies. And I only ever say the same thing. I'm allergic to small plates. That's it, right?
Yeah.
There was every possible allergy free from going on in that villa than you could believe. And I thought, if this is like an analogy for actors and crew, this is it. These two fridges are it in a nutshell.
In my band music days, my best mate Haran, we used to do our riders for the green rooms, and they would say, "What's your favourite food?" And he always used to write lots.
Yeah.
Right, I'm all for that.
And also, we filmed. Do you remember we interviewed that lady from a film office? So she's quite young, apprentice, getting into the industry, and was part of a project that we worked on. And just before we were rolling, we were chatting, and I was asking her, what's your favourite thing about the job? And she was talking about the experiences she'd had, and she said that she was like, I mostly, when I'm on set, get people coffee, and I was like, oh, that must be a nightmare if you've got a bit, big crew or whatever. And she was like, no, she was like, you guys only drink black coffee, so it's
Nice, easy.
it's simple.
There's that one about James Cameron, isn't there, when he came over to shoot. I think he was shooting The Abyss, and like he shot it here because the crew. Great film, and like it was back in the day where a klaxon went off at 11 o'clock for all the British crew to have a tea, and he was like, "What?" He was having a meltdown, and old school 70s crew. It was 80s, but these guys would have been working in the 50s, 60s, 70s. When that klaxon comes and the tea lady comes in, they're not doing anything for 15 minutes. Do you know what I mean? And he's like, what? He's like, this American director's like having a meltdown. And he's like, you're kidding me.
I've heard George Lucas talk about similar things.
Yeah, right.
Our Street when doing Star Wars, whatever else. His union. Have my tea break, have a cigarette break.
Tools down, everyone. You know what I mean? And then having a meltdown. He was probably, and then of course he goes off again at 3:15. Like, what, we just had lunch? He's like, yeah, we've got to have a tea now.
One of our guys that we work with a lot, Dom, was saying he did a job in, was it Japan? He's worked in recently.
He's been everywhere.
And he spent a good few weeks in Japan working as part of a crew. Yeah. And he was saying, it's amazing. It's like they don't work more than 8 hours a day. And it was like every day at 2 o'clock they have a nap.
That was it.
And and it's just part of the it's cool. It's 2 o'clock, it's nap time.
Wow.
We asked them. We found out. We asked them the question. It was really like intense pre-production on this job, and we were like, I know you're on. You're shooting. Just whatever you can do. We've got a pre-production call on this day. What works? He's like, oh well, I'll definitely be done by 6 o'clock. So yeah, but you're shooting. You're in production. That's how can you know? Standard working hours, like 8 hours.
Yeah. Or everyone's asleep at 2 o'clock, so let's chat.
I remember we were shooting something at night when we did this war thing, Warblade, which is a great little film. And again, they were making this massive concept movie for no money at all. And as a director, I've done about 5 films with him. And, he got the call and I was like, and we had a great time making that movie. It was really good fun and everyone was great on it. And it was late night and we'd been shooting something and there was an issue and we couldn't get. There was an issue with production. There was something that wasn't there, couldn't be there. They'd only just realised, and it was like it would take too long to go and get it or create it or whatever. So they were like, right, okay, this last scene's not going to be able to get done. And the night before, we'd missed a scene, like we dropped it. The time had run out, and we dropped something. So my natural response was like, because I knew Nick as well, the director. I said like, well, why don't we pick up that one from last night? I said like, my costume's here for that other one, by the way. And again, this is, me just doing what I'm doing. I'm thinking, because again, I've come out for a night shoot. I thought I was probably working till who knows when. So I'm kind of like, we're here. Let's get that in the can. And it was funny because then he was like, yeah. And the actors were like, yeah. Then there was the sticky conversation. They had to go and speak to the crew who, again, are on very tight. Once 12 hours are up, now they're getting paid again and all that stuff, So they had to have that. And I'd not experienced that really before. I was quite sort of surprised at that. And don't get me wrong, they did it and they were great and they were brilliant people. And I understand why those parameters are in place in the industry because there are times where they, their time is being abused a little, you know what I mean? And people are doing a lot of stuff for nothing. Yeah. But I suppose, again, you know what you sign up to on those jobs. Again, like those guys who come down and work for you, they know what it is, they know what it isn't, they know what's required. So don't let that be a shock, And maybe those actors haven't done enough of that other stuff. You know what I mean? And but again, I sort of feel really uneasy at that. A sort of actor coming down and thinking like, especially about you guys, because I know how hard you work and how much you care, and everything I've ever done with you guys. Like again, the outcome's always been like, yeah, they've worked hard on this. Do you know what I mean? Like you guys care about narrative and telling the story, and you always get someone in, or one of you guys are directing, or someone's directing who knows, and Ben comes in and direct, and
shout out to Ben.
Yeah, shout out to Ben, absolutely, yeah. And but again, even with someone like Ben, he's a director who can come in and work with you guys, and there's a synergy, and he'd like that, and often you're sort of first AD and saying, well, maybe we could do that, and and there's all of that suggestion and that just camaraderie about getting the job done. Yeah, and when it just gets messed up sometimes a little bit,
Yeah, but I guess experience counts for a lot. Scoping a job out with experience generally means that we know we're going to be, unless something drastic happens, we're generally operating within this sort of timescale. And so we can then make a decision there. Do we need to change the budget, or do we need to make some allowances in other areas? In previous years, in less experienced years, it's been a little bit, oh crap, I haven't actually spotted that. In the last sort of 2, 3, 4 years, that's almost never happened, thankfully. So experience counts for a lot.
Well, that's a good answer to that question.
They don't think necessarily like what could happen. Have we crewed this right? What are all the other factors? Have we accounted for this, that, and the other? And as long as you've got enough of a buffer, you can work a budget to make sure that, if people are working crazy hours, there's allowances for it.
Again, that answers that question really well, though, because if the question is what would I want companies to do? Exactly that. You're covering all the bases. You're thinking about it. You're doing the job that you need to do to be able to produce something at the right, because scale is massive, and I get it with budgets, and I understand. Again, I do these crazy low budget movies where we're making a short film in 9 days, and you're like, you wish you had 19 days, and that's okay if everyone's on board with that, and everyone and that process has still been respected, even though you're pushing it a little bit.
Yeah.
But when it's sort of when you're able to make those calls a bit earlier and say, well, maybe it's. And it's not, because the company know that they can pinch a load of extra money by just doing it in 1 day, whereas they could have done it in 2 days, and they still would have got paid. Everyone would have made a profit, but the product wouldn't have suffered, and they wouldn't have been like it is. Yeah, that's the answer to that question. To make sure you do what you guys do, which is all of that process, and make sure that all that stuff is at scale, is all, nothing's at odds with each other. Then we can. Because it's a creative process, which is not science. You just don't know. How many times have you been on set where a problem you never could have seen has caused time to be lost, whether it's technically or it's human or it's location or environment. I mean, every time, right? There's always a factor.
Yeah. And we need to we have actors that come and work with us. We need to cultivate an environment where they can be free to act and not be stressing about what we're potentially stressing about behind the camera, which is really important. And you talked about the process. Like, we worked with a couple of female leads in this particular production who, there was a really harrowing end to the production. So one of them was being kidnapped, one was a kidnapper, and we were I think at this 5 hours behind schedule. So understandably, some of the crew were like, come on, we need to get going. Sure. But we're like, no, they need time to get ready. And, they're there holding hands, looking at each other eyes, kind of crying, getting ready. Yeah. And the crew were like, are they ready? And I think it's literally, it's you and I on this occasion, but we were like, no, we're like, they're ready when they're ready. Just let them do their thing.
Good on you guys.
Yeah, it's really important.
And they got it within a fairly short amount of takes rather than what could have been, they may have never got if we didn't allow them that time, they may have never got the performance that we needed for that scene. That's a lovely story to hear. It's an amazing story to hear. I mean, I know there's a thin balance because even I've been on set waiting for actors and thinking, get on with it, just get on with it. You know what I mean? But equally, there is a process there, and I love the fact that, and again,
I think that's just in your nature. It's probably, and also you guys, a bit like we were saying earlier about people just, you seek it. But also there's something in the ethos where you guys, like other companies I work for, that I would just come back anytime for. You've just got it right with choosing your actors. You've got somehow you're able to see the actors, not just good actors, but people that you want to work with. And I know you still get it wrong because it's impossible sometimes. We were talking about earlier about taping and things. You're not in a room anymore. You're not, often when you get a job, if you then are on the production, and that's, again, I say this to young actors, there's certain points in your career, you're not going in a room to see if you can act or not. They know that. That's why they went to your agent. That's why they gave you a call in the first place. They're not saying, can he act? Otherwise, you wouldn't have those. You wouldn't be in those doors already. Yeah. So what you're doing there is you're saying, am I right for the role? And often, can you work with this person? And most of the time, especially on commercials, as long as you've got the right look, they are going, these 5 guys are perfect. They all look exactly how we want them, right? And it'll be different looks, but they can all tick the box. Yeah. So the reason you go in the room to meet with them is they go, can we work with this person? They're a nice person. And 9 times out of 10, if I'm sat at the table, halfway through the production and they say, why we chose you, Paul? You told us that joke about something, or you came in and did that thing, or you just had a nice energy or whatever, and you're like, it's got nothing to do with the acting. It's the other part of it that comes with it. There's a really funny story about an actor who he used to have a thing to try and be remembered at auditions. So he would come in and he would arrive flustered, and he said, "Sorry," he said, "I know a bit flustered." He said, a dog just attacked me outside. It was like biting my leg. And he would do this. And he would do this quite a lot. Of course, he did it one day. And he came in, he was really flustered. He said, I really went for it. He said, I was sort of really sweaty. Because he's thinking that after that meeting, they'll go, I like that guy. The one who had attacked by the dog. And that's his thinking. So he gets in and he does the thing. And he's like, And the lady went, that's weird. That happened the last time you came in.
No.
Like, what are the chances?
Yeah,
Busted.
And the time before that.
Be yourself.
So when we cast that person, we're like, it's you.
Yeah.
We heard about you.
You'll know it's him. I mean, loads of sort of EastEndery actors who I'm really, again, my friend Roger Griffiths, big shout out to Roger. He's an absolutely brilliant actor. And he was like, you remember the show Chef? Funny enough, I'm speaking to Lenny Henry again. He was like the right-hand guy in Lenny Henry's series Chef, and he was quite a successful actor very early on, and then went on to do loads of stuff. And he's just been one of the sort of main characters in EastEnders and come out of that show. Again, me and him spent 10 years doing corporate things for HSBC together. Yeah. And I've never done a gig with him without someone going, I know you from something. Never been in a restaurant with Roger without someone going, aren't you on the telly? He's just done tons of stuff, But again, those actors are great to work with because they've all got stories, they've all got stuff, and half the time you'll find they're like the rest of us. They're doing other stuff to make.
Totally.
Yeah, I think just not judging anyone by the perception of them in the media, judging a book by the cover. I remember we did a job, not so much an actor, but TV personality was. I'll say his name because he was great, but we did some stuff with Gok Wan.
Yeah.
And I can't remember who it was, but someone came in the room before he arrived, and they were like, "Don't talk to him. Leave him alone.
Oh, really?
He needs his time to do whatever he needs to do." I wouldn't dare say who that person was, whether it was his entourage or the part of the crew. But we were like, "Okay, fine." And then he comes like guns are blazing into the room, and he's like, "All right, mate. Shaking everyone's hand." He was the one who like went around with the crew and said, "Do you want tea or coffee? I'll get the tea." Do you know what I mean? So just they're just normal people. So
I can remember I worked in the theatre for years as a front of house manager. So because it was perfect for an actor, because I'd start at 4 and finish at midnight. So during the day I'd go to auditions and do stuff, right? Sure. And it was great. So lots of people came in the theatre, and my job is the front of house manager. So I'm looking after the whole show, getting it on, making sure all the bars are running, working with the crew backstage, giving them clearance, going to make sure the acts are okay and the managers are all right. Running the show. The only reason I'm saying that is that I was in the dressing room. I popped into Stephen Merchant's. I'm going to say it because I don't mind saying it. But I popped into Stephen Merchant's dressing room and just to go, "Hi, Stephen. I'm Paul. I'm the front of house manager. If you need anything, if you've got everything on your rider, blah blah blah." It's my job, right, to do that. Yeah. And he was totally cool. He was sweet as a nut. Yeah, no worries, Paul. Yeah, no, absolutely fine. As I turned around like that, his manager had come in the door, and I went out and he came out with me and he went, if you need anything, you can come to me. Like, don't go, And he was really like rude and like, who are you to be?
Yeah.
And
I've heard quite a few stories like that. It was with a very famous musician.
Right.
Well, I can't name.
Right, fair enough. Just in case he rings.
Yeah, just in case I get into trouble. But yeah, someone who was one of my sort of close family friends who's a roadie, who was on stage just adjusting monitors, wanted to ask him a question, wasn't allowed.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just some people who want to keep. It's like a control thing, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that artist. It's not them.
It really is
making the rules. It's the people
The other
around
things
them.
around them. Yeah. And I think they do it as a sort of because they can. Because what that does, it gives them access to them and not you.
Yeah.
That makes them special. That puts them in a very special position.
That's
right?
what it is.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
like so sycophantically ridiculous. And if it's the artist or the actor or the process, whatever, whoever is that person, if their process isn't being affected by that, so what?
So what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what?
they're like the Pope, aren't they? Like,
Yeah.
you come to confession to me, I'll tell you what God
Yeah.
wants. It's just like,
Well, funny enough, that job I did with David Jason, there was a moment he had a bit of a paddy, and I totally get it. Like the long and the short of it was they were taking ages in between setups. Now this was a big thing because it was Frost, but this scene was he comes in a van, it breaks down. I have a conversation with him. I push his van. Police jump out the back of it. They arrest us. There was a bit of physical stuff. Then loads of extra police arrive. So there's a sort of sequence. There was loads of elements.
choreography.
Lots of stuff, right?
Lots of moving parts.
Lots of moving parts. So there was a lot of setup. Now, bear in mind, wherever David Jason was in between takes was very comfortable. And you're talking about maybe 20 years ago, no, less than that, maybe 15 years ago. I think David Jason's in his 80s. So at this point, he's at least 70, right? And it's a cold February day in Leeds. Yeah. So, in the same way you'd be like that with your dad, it's cold, Dad, go inside. You know what I mean? Don't stand out in the freezing cold, right? Yeah. And of course, it was amazing when he comes that closer, you realise how much makeup they're putting on him to make him look like he could still work for the police force and they haven't given him a golden watch yet. Do you know what I mean? Get out the door. And he was lovely. He was totally lovely. But there was a moment where he got fed up with waiting around. He really got fed up with waiting around. Bear in mind, they only call him when they're ready for him. So they get set up, then say, okay, we're ready for David. There's a little moment of silence. And in comes the Merc, and then out he gets, and he's ready. He's the producer on it as well. So I'm not saying that it certainly didn't feel like he was like being, a diva in any way. That was just the process. And again, all of that. And again, he was nice as pie and he was very nice to everyone and very professional, obviously. But there was this moment, he waited around for too long and he got the ump and he got the paper, just like a 70-year-old bloke in a coffee shop, right? And he started reading the paper and sat down. And the first day somebody came over and they said, David, I think we are ready now. And he went, well, I'm not. And the first day they took a step back, silence like that. And you just heard him on the cans go, it's going to take a few moments. I'll let you know when we're ready. And we waited. And I was sort of smiling, thinking this is quite funny. All right, okay, I'm ready. And he was like, I think there was a little bit of proving a point and there was a little bit of like, can. Yeah. But there was also a little bit of the way he kind of came out of it was like, I've had my moment. I've been silly. Yeah. Let's get on with the job.
Sounds like he's having a bit of fun as well.
I kind of feel there was a little bit of that. Yeah. So. I mean, I certainly, if you could call those shots, you certainly feel like you'd want to. I mean, I did a job in Asia last year, maybe the year before, and the guy I worked with, American guy, again, you won't know who he is. Lovely guy, and big shout out to Chris because he's a lovely guy and still really friendly with him now. He was one of those guys that he was a young actor and he's like 6'6". Again, he's like this beautiful American, and I have all these scenes in him and I'm only 5'10", right? And they've got these like fight scenes as well. And luckily the stunt double I trained with was the same height as him because like to fight someone with swords and stuff who's that much taller than you, like when you watch Tyson Fury and like the range and reach he had, I was like, this is a nightmare. Anyway, really lovely guy, perfect teeth. Absolute American actor. And he'd been quite successful in his early days and then got off the rails and then got out of it and then got back into it. Right. But at one point, he was the face of Medal of Honor, like one of these spin-off ones, like one of the things, right? And he's this character in it. I don't know who his name is, but so much so he was on a dime bar, like everywhere in the world. His face is on a dime bar. Because, of course, they degenerate your face, don't they? And all the kind of motion capture stuff, yeah. And like, you know, and he said to me, and again, I won't go into details about it, but, you know, he said to, you know, sometimes he'd go into a session where they just scan his face for 3 minutes and gets copious amounts of money for that. But equally, he didn't have an agent at the time that probably did as much as they should have done with securing finances and stuff, you know, because actually, if you're making those, you know, we know those games make more money than movies. So
Now,
certainly should have been being paid handsomely, you know. And again, like I worked with him, he was fantastic. And weirdly enough, he trained in Sidcup. He came over to Kent to train in a Rose Buford, which is around the corner, you know, from us.
Been there.
Yeah, right. And again, nobody knows you as a brilliant actor, but has had that life of like being in that world. You know, it's.
Well, now I just want a dime bar.
I hate dime bars. Ooh, I don't even know what the taste they are.
I mean, for me, I just want to say, like, thanks for coming. Like,
Pleasure.
when one of the saddest things for me when things went like streaming, like Netflix and Disney and all this stuff, what I miss about DVDs and Blu-rays and all that is I was a bit sad, but I love like the director's commentary.
Yeah.
I love the bloopers.
Yeah.
I love the behind the scenes. You get bits of it on YouTube and
Yeah.
on this. But that was like my favourite thing. Like people used to
Same.
laugh at me. I sometimes watch the director's cut first. The director's commentary. Sorry.
Yeah.
And so today, today's like invigorated a bit of that for me.
Yeah.
That kind of like look behind the curtain. That I kind of miss. You know, same with music. I want to buy records and read the credits and read it all. And again, that's what I miss on all these platforms. So, you know, just thank you for like sharing. Just like on Extras, Patrick Stewart, you know, I saw everything. And so thank you for that. See everything. And, last closing questions, really quick fire.
Go for it.
What's been your greatest job or experience as an actor? It doesn't have to be related to fame or money. What's been your least favorite experience in your job? And what's an experience or job that you would love to have one day?
I think my one at the moment, because it's fresh in my head, and I've been really lucky, and I've had some brilliant experiences in the last few years, and I'm attached to a few films, and I'm very passionate about them because of the way they were made. A bit like what we've been talking about today. Everyone was in the game, and it doesn't matter if it cost a £5 or 5 million quid. They've been made with real passion, and everyone who's walked through the door was there for the right reasons. So I feel genuinely very attached to those movies. Although I always have issues as an actor with being too proud of stuff, because you always see the holes and you always see the bits that you wanted to do and stuff. Yeah. Again, I just look at the champagne and won't pop it yet, you know. But there's some of those movies that I'm really proud of. As a pure enjoyment, the film I just spoke about when I went to Central Asia was one of my most incredible experiences, because, you know, I went to Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, a place I'd never thought I'd ever visit. I made a movie on the real location of like this mud palace that's since the 9th century. You know, we think we've got history here. You know, we have. These places have got history that's so old. Like it makes our castles look like a new flat. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
What an experience.
And I work with all these Kazakhstan and Uzbeki stunt guys who ride horses and flip off them and jump out of, you know, and are martial artists. And my job for the first week was get up, go to the stunt team's gym, work with these guys with swords and axes and work and get all this choreography, which I love. Then have lunch and a swim. I had a swim and then lunch. And so you're working physically and doing all that and working with these brilliant people. And then go to set and, you know, go and try the costume on and all the bits you need to do before you start filming, you know. And there was one day, it's one moment, and I did put it on Instagram and it's still there, I think. But I got picked up from my hotel and it was roasting hot there. It wasn't the sort of environment I thought it was. I thought it'd be much more Asian, but it was much more Russian in its, because it's so, again, those countries are so big, much more influenced by the Russia that's so huge up here, that's right below there. And I thought, when I hear Central Asia, I was thinking sort of, Asian, you know, I was thinking all those kind of Asian countries' influences. But food, clothes, culture, and environment was much more European-y, Russian-y, Eastern European-y. Anyway, get picked up from my hotel, and there was a guy who was really passionate, this young Uzbekistan guy, and his job was to look after everyone. Now, Uzbeki royal family had put some money into this film, so it was a very big deal. Everywhere we went, film people are not in that area. So everywhere you went, they knew you were part of this film. Especially when you're a very white, very orange person. You are not the commonplace in the middle of an Uzbeki, 9th century, like, it was,
Slowly getting redder and redder every day.
Oh, like beyond belief. Yeah. And I got picked up and they had one of those vehicles you see on the American lots. And I think they'd hired it because, I think you can get them as tourists to drive around in. But I think, again, because they were like, the film people are here, let's get them a film vehicle, right? Mm-hmm. So they picked me up and I'm driving through, and this guy, he knows everyone. He knows everyone, this guy. He's waving at stall holders. He's getting people to move their market stalls out of the way so we can drive through the shortcut into this, palace, right? And I'm in the back. And the sun's shining, and I was in a vest because I'd come from the stunt team and I'd had a shower and I was fresh, like really nice. But I'd also had a workout, so you feel that lovely endorphin kind of feel, right? And just had lunch. And I'm on the way to set to try on the armour that they've made for me, right? And the wind is blowing, and I'm in this car, and I'm looking at these things thinking, how did a boy from Dartford end up here? And it was a real... I allowed myself to purely enjoy that moment. And
that's like make-believe stuff.
It really was.
Get to be a soldier.
My gosh.
That's like...
They made this armour and they bespoke for me.
Wow.
And it was beautiful. And I tried it on. I was like, this is amazing. And of course, the next thing they do is they age it. So they dragged it through the sand and they ripped it and they busted it. It was all leather. And it was... And again, we went into this place. It's called Kiva, this place. And look it up. It's amazing. And I was on this... It was so old and so amazing that when they built a set that I arrived onto, I couldn't tell what bits were the set and what bits were the real market going on. Because you were just like, well, these are all stalls. The only difference being is that these are fake apples and that person's got selling hats with Kiva on. But the lady selling it looks like the generation of probably her family have been selling stuff on that market stall for 2,000 years. You know what I mean? So it was just mind-boggling.
Amazing experience.
That was one of those moments you go, yes, please, thank you.
Yeah. I'll take that.
Yeah, I'll totally
lock it away.
I'm having that for good.
And what would be your least favourite experience on a job? Without dobbing anyone in.
I'll do it. I'll do the excavated version so the details don't come out. But I was on a film where the schedule was a bit problematic, and there were times where you didn't really feel like whoever was in control was in control. Yeah. And I arrived for a night shoot, and I'd worked that day, and I said, look, because I'd moved dates. I said, look, I can get away again. I'm really like, if I can make it work for you, I'll come and work for you, right? Yeah. I said, look, I can finish early and I'll drive up. And I said, I'll come straight to set. You don't have to put me up because I had to be at work the next day. So I was basically working all day, going to do a night shoot, drive home, have a couple of hours, get back to work, right? The only way they were going to do it. So I drove up, arrived, I don't know, maybe 8 o'clock, and it was dark already because it was definitely wintry time. And it was an outside shoot, sort of fight scene-y stuff that hadn't really been blocked or rehearsed, and I was a bit dubious about it. And like, okay, fine. Got there, got in makeup, got in costume, fine, ready. Then took to set because it was like when the makeup and stuff was being done, there was a little bit of space from where they were actually shooting, where the location was. Got there and I was having a coffee and chilling out in the sort of tents they put up. Time was getting on and I kept saying to the sort of powers that be that were around, like, where are they? Where is everyone? Are they shooting? They're just blocking out. Okay, fine. And yeah, well, why am I not part of that then? Yeah. So anyway, my experience came into play actually because I thought I'm gonna go hang around. So I went over to the set and I saw the scene being blocked in the set piece, which I am here for, and I'm in costume for, and I'm in makeup for. I watched all this unfold. Okay, yeah, fine, yeah. So again, my experience told me, I thought, I'm going to go and stand where I can be seen because it's pitch black. It's outside. It's in a forest. Yeah. So I sort of stood where I was lit, and I watched the director and the team blocking out and using different people, and there was quite a few extras and bits and pieces. So I brought in artists. Aren't you supposed to be in this?
Oh no!
And I said, you tell me. And it was like, I know that had I have not gone and stood there, and I'd have sat in that thing drinking coffee, in 3 hours' time, everyone would have come flying in and going, right, we're wrapped. And I'd have gone, why have I given up my time and driven up here for this? And it was one of those, and I genuinely believe, hand on heart, that would have happened.
Yeah.
That makes you feel so worthless. So like, why did I bother coming? And why am I part of this? You know, and it's got nothing to do with being like, you know, ended up on the cutting room floor, because I'm not worried about that. But what I mean is, you know, if you didn't want me, don't ring me. Don't let me, you know, if you don't need anything from me particularly, like, you know, if, you know, all jokes aside, full circle, the trombone story, you need someone who can mime a trombone. If they play, you need someone who can play the trombone. There'll be nuances of that I don't know. All right, my job as an actor is to look into that, to talk to someone like Will and say, how should I do this and blah, blah, blah. But I understand when sometimes you need the right person. But if you've hired me to do what I do, and that's how little you care about it, that is as worthless as you can feel. And that is a moment that stuck in my head a little bit. Like,
Wow. Great. I mean, it's a great and terrible story, but
I know,
great,
right? Yeah.
And what is something that you would just love to do? Like, you know, in any aspect of production or life, I guess.
If I can, you know, I mean, I'm always writing, and I've directed a few bits and pieces, and you know, a few years ago we raised some money and we made a feature film with a friend of mine and writing partner, and we spent probably a year of our life absolutely skint, but in a wonderful creative environment where we made a short film, took it around every festival we could, sleeping on people's sofas, eating reduced egg sandwiches out of the Tesco thing. You know, we had nothing. And even so, that we went to festivals and we didn't book accommodation. We just booked a very early morning flight because we couldn't afford both, so we didn't fly back. You know, and we just, it was a really creative year. It was amazing, and we made some brilliant work, and we made a community and a family exactly like you guys build here. Anytime I get to do that, whether I'm in charge of it or whether I'm not, but if I'm a part of that community and that environment, I'm a very, very lucky and a very, very happy boy. If the job itself as well throws in all those other challenges, a bit like that job I just said, you know, I like the physical challenges. Yeah. And that job was lovely because it was all of that. But then there was also me and another actor going for it in an amazing location. And, you know, you don't need much imagination if you're on a set and you can hear wolves in the desert howling at you, waiting for you to fall off of this ancient sand lump, because if you genuinely do, they're going to have you for dinner. You know, again, if I can have a moment like that ever, and more moments like that, that would be amazing. And I suppose to be more specific, I love the idea of these shows that get done that are long term, and you're on it for 8 months, and you get to take a character through an entire arc, like you do in a film, like doing a scene, but on that level, and to be thrown at that, you know, thrown challenges at you all the time, and just to be guaranteed that lovely block to focus on that amazing journey of that character and that story. I'm in. Do you know what I mean? Whatever you need me for, I'm in. I would, you know, that would be great. And it's actually got less to do with, you know, because you could be fooling an actor saying, oh, at least I've got 8 months' work. I mean, that is nice, but that's not the bit that interests me. It's the fact that you can do that every day for that long period of time, and have the room to do that. Right, that would be amazing. And these guys who get to do that season after season after season, and they must sit down with those writers and they go, listen, your character's doing this now, and they've gone in, you're like, whoa, you know, like Bryan Cranston, you know, in Breaking Bad must have thought, where's this character going? You know, and then reading a new season and going, what challenges now? I suppose the only bad side of that is that, you know, how many tools have you got left after a season like that? Because you've got to expose everything you've got, even probably learning new bits along the way. But what an amazing experience and a challenge as an actor to use every tool you've got every day in that way. Sure. Yes, please.
Amazing.
The dream.
Amazing. You talk about community, nice driving that. We're really grateful you're part of this community that we're
that's really sweet. Really sweet, Sam. And again, genuinely, you know, coming down last night and coming in this morning, and my drive home will be exactly what I said to you guys. I feel like I've been at work, but it's nothing work wise at all. It's just, you know, you guys are exactly part of my tribe, and like, you know, I tell young actors, listen, there's a world out there you don't know exists, and it'll get you work, but it'll be great work, and you won't retire on it, but you'll go and meet brilliant people, and if they ring you 3 times a year, you'll be really pleased, and you'll go down and see them all, and you'll have a great time. And I'm really, really, I genuinely, and I'm not just saying this because, I'm here talking to you guys. I speak of you guys very highly, and a lot of that is yes, of course, because the quality of what you make is great. But underneath that, I know that that's a byproduct of who and what you guys are. That product is so good because of the way you do it, and long may it continue. You know what I mean? I hope you guys, again, just continue to go strength from strength in that regard.
Thank you. What a great way to end, because that's the definition of success.
Nice, Sam. He's good at this, isn't he? They weren't even in the notes. That's good.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Paul. And we'd love to have you back.
Yeah,
please.
Let me know when. Yeah.